Welcome home. You just tuned your dial to Spaced Out Radio, the only place where you can own the night. I am your host, Mr. Rob G. And filling in tonight is Mr. Terry Hall as my co-host. Tonight we're broadcasting to you on our terrestrial affiliates across North America and digitally on TalkStream Live, KMPL, and Odyssey Radio. Remember, you can access our archives for free at youtube.com/spaced out radio. And while you're there, please hit that subscribe button. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Spaced Out Radio and at Spaced Out Radio Show. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where you can access up-to-date information with the S.O.R Newswire, get some official Spaced Out swag, plus rock out to some Bumblefoot and so much more. We have an awesome show for you tonight. We'll be joined in a few by our guest Drew Banky, consciousness person, sacred medicine man, just all sorts of things. I read through his bio and did some research on the guy. He's outstanding. I'm going to go ahead and bring in my co-host here, Terry Hall. Mr. Hall, how are you today?
Good evening, Mr. G. How are you this evening?
Hey, ready to get it going, man. Ready to get it going. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the audience and see who came in first. I can almost guess if I just had to guess, but let me just check just in case.
Yeah, I wonder.
Ooh.
Could it be?
First name in the chat. I'm gonna go by that. First name in the chat would be Kurt M for the gold.
Ooh.
Then we have Race Fan for the silver. And then Eagles Nest podcast with Drew Banky. That doesn't count. Drew can't count for that one. So we'll give it to Kevin Whip. So we'll give it to Kevin Whip for the bronze. All right. So let's go ahead and welcome everybody in today. Kevin, thanks for coming. Carl Bittner, thank you for joining us tonight at the After Hours. Once again, the gold guy, Kurt M. Welcome. Thanks for coming in. D Cypher, thanks for coming in today. Thanks for coming. Let's see. Dewey Cheatham and Howe. I think I got that right. First try. Thanks for coming in. Nancy Thames, thank you for coming in.
Rob, you don't recognize Dewey, Cheatham, and Howe. Okay, let me see if you recognize this one. Calling Dr. Fine, Dr. Howard, Dr. Fine. Three Stooges, bro.
Ah, okay. You had me right there. You had me. All right, Lars Jansen, thanks for coming in. Appreciate you. Andrew, Sideshow Bob, 420 Goofonian Rockstar, thanks for coming in. Area 51, nice to see you. Thanks for coming in. Anonymous Rex, Timothy Senor, thank you for coming in today, sir. Susan Alloway, thanks for coming. Jessica S, thanks so much for coming tonight on this after hours. Black Dragon, Semper Fi, thanks for coming in. Appreciate you. Derek Galloway, thanks for coming. All aboard the woo woo train. Yeah. Okay. Love it. Love it. Justin Hemminson, thanks for coming in. Come on. We're getting down the list. We're almost there, guys. Yeah, Anonymous Rest says Stooges. Okay. I watched the Stooges, man. It just didn't hit me. I'm sorry, man. I didn't get it.
Seems like every weekend, Rob, I'm seeing new names, new names.
Loving it too. Loving it. New name like Easy Wind. Haven't seen Easy Wind in here. I want to welcome you and thank you for coming in.
Yeah, we got a Facebook user on here too. So we're getting watched on Facebook too there, buddy.
Facebook user. Let me see. We got Paula Faust. That's another new name. Thanks for coming in. Robert Lamoth Jr. Appreciate you coming in. The Demon. Thanks for coming.
So Easy Wind, are you a member of the Novus Ordo Seclorum? Or are you just making a comment about the New World Order?
Okay. You read between the lines on that. Okay. Facebook user, good evening. Thanks for coming in. Let's see. I think we're caught up. Yeah. Carl Bittner. Yeah. Okay. Yep. We're all caught up. So thank you for coming and joining us tonight. We're going to have an epic show as always. But what we're going to do, we are going to jump into the week that was S.O.R. radio. The week that was. Let's hop in the time machine. Let's go back in time. Let's go ahead and check it out. Let's see what happened on S.O.R. this week. All right, welcome back to Spaced Out Radio. I'm the host for tonight, standing in for David Scott as he has a ball with his son out there with Guns N' Roses. Hope he's having a great time. We have Tim Senor here in the building, and we have Melinda Leslie, and we're jumping back in with Melinda. We were talking about the deep underground military bases, and there's a point that you want to add to that as far as like the mass abductions. Let's talk about that. And then the also the sightings that are, I guess, happening like clockwork. Let's go over those things with us here.
The like clockwork was, I was just saying, between 9:30 and 10, but most of it between 9:30 and 9:45 every night. And, I was just thinking, too, I should clarify, it's not just the lights coming up from behind and going, behind the hill and coming up and powering up and disappearing. It's also ones coming in the sky and going down there. One night, for as an example, we had 3 things pop in up in the sky in a perfect triangle formation. And so we see that about 1 out of every 10 tours. We see that pretty often on my tours. So we're seeing 3 things in triangle formation come down, swoop down over that area. And I'm like, were they just farther away? Like, here's the hill and they're just going to keep going, off like that beyond it. But no, they came down over the hill. They came right over the hill. All 3 powered up like dime size, at arm's length, dime or nickel size, giant amber lights. And again, they're looking dime and nickel at arm's length. We know the other side of that hill has got to be about 2 miles away. And they're going boom, that big, all 3 at the same time. And then all 3 went boom behind the hill. And you're like going, what? I mean, again, my clients are just, their minds are blown, me too. Cause I'm like, what are we seeing? Is it something in our possession? Is it ETs coming and going? Is it, if we have that much stuff, what, it's like, but we're seeing it. Like I said, the majority out of 14 nights in a row. So, and then when you watch those Skinwalker shows and you combine it with all the stuff, again, there's nothing else out there. I think it's incredible evidence that the base is there. I think it's incredible evidence of ET technology existing there, whether it's ETs or us, but it's that technology. you know, if it is us, it's reverse engineered.
I'm telling you right now, this is going to be awesome. Absolutely awesome. Let's just shut down the bio and let's get right to it, because Reverend Valerie Love is here with us tonight. Valerie, thank you for coming on Spaced Out Radio for the first time. What a pleasure it is to have you here.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much, Dave, for having me here. And thank you for this beautiful, beautiful space. I love it. It's a fun space. It's upbeat. It's inspiring. I love it. And by the way, I must add that you have a great beard. I've got to tell you that.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm very excited to learn a little bit about you right now, because you literally had this corporate job. You're doing well for yourself, probably in six figures plus. You're whining and dining each and every night. You probably know at least 45 different brands of wine. Okay. And all of a sudden you're like, screw this. This isn't what life is about. I'm going to do this my own way. Good for you, first of all, for being able to do that. But how did that happen?
I always felt like I could inspire people. You know how you just have this inner knowing that you can help people. And so I've always had that my entire life, yet I didn't always act on it. I'm a wave maker. I like making waves. It's fun. And so as I got older and older, I knew that I had to go out and find my own way, you know, apart from what I had been taught. And, you know, the tap on the shoulder from the divine doesn't go away. The tap on the shoulder, come hither. There's something greater for you to do. There's just another level of life that we're being invited into. That gentle whisper and that tap on the shoulder, it doesn't go away just because I don't want to immediately align with it. When you're in alignment with your soul and the universe and the greater cosmic order, things unfold smoothly. And it doesn't mean that there are no challenges. It just means that it shouldn't be hard making, and it shouldn't feel like dragging yourself over cut glass. It just shouldn't feel like that. So the first idea that I really wanted to write about is the inner voice, and that there is an inner voice that is speaking to all of us, an intuitive voice that is always right, and it always gives us accurate truth. It gives us truth. And that this thing inside, if we could really connect with it and let it guide and lead our lives would just be much better.
Wow. Did you manifest this, or did you just give your soul over to the phenomena and said, just take me for the ride?
Take me for the ride. I'm here.
Unbelievable.
Pretty wild, huh?
Well, it is. And let me tell you why it is. Okay, at least in my point, is because so many people have devoted their lives to becoming more spiritually aware and becoming more spiritually attuned and in tune. For the majority of us, myself included, we always have that reservation about actually giving ourselves to the phenomena and to wherever it takes us. We can say we have, but have we really? I just cannot let go of that 10 to 15% that's just going to allow me to fly with the eagles. I don't know what holds me except fear. You didn't have fear. When you jump off that ledge, you never know where you're going to land. And yet you're not landing, you're flying. I'm blown away right now. Amazing.
Yay.
I am just... I'm blown away right now, and I'm getting emotional, and I'm very happy for you.
Thank you.
You have the power and the authority to change anything you want under free will.
Destiny, yeah, absolutely.
If you're somebody who has that black cloud over you, you have the ability to change that. You're not stuck in that pattern. And it's the same if you're having good luck. If you're on a real hot streak, you have to know that eventually things are going to calm down. It doesn't mean that you have bad luck. It just means that you went through a very good phase that was beneficial for you, and now it's time to come back to that normal stage of life now.
True.
Right? And so I don't believe that if you get something, a prediction for the future, and I'll be honest with you, Paisley and I have had this conversation years ago, but one of my biggest issues with a lot of psychics out there, and this is why I don't bring a lot of them on anymore, is because I would usually, before I bring a psychic on, I would usually say, okay, if you're going to come on my show, I need a reading. I want to know that if I'm bringing you on, that there's some merit to it. I'm not just going to put you on for the sake of putting you on so you can express how awesome you are without being kind of tested to it. And the one thing that I learned from about 95% of the psychics that I interviewed in the past was everything great was always 6, 8, 10, 12 months down the road. But you have to go through this rough patch. And when you get out of that rough patch, then all of a sudden, you're making babies, you're winning the lottery, your business is taking off. You're going to have the best flower patch in the spring that you've ever had before. Okay. And then when you hit that 6, 7 months a little bit later, guess what? Oh, well, now Mercury has gone into retrograde and set everything back. But I could tell you in 6, 8, 10, 12 months, everything's going to be looking absolutely beautiful for you. Guru,
yes.
We're talking about the Blackwater Triangle, puck wedgies. People want to know, what is a puck wedgie?
It's called the Bridgewater Triangle, although Blackwater Triangle sounds pretty cool as well, too.
Or Bridgewater. I apologize.
That's okay. That's okay. So puck wedgie is probably as close as we could get to calling them a member of the Fae or the fairies or the elementals in European tradition, which is interesting because the root of the word puck wedgie, that puck, is a derivation of a word that means fairy in the British vernacular as well, too, where we get Shakespeare's character from Puck in A Midsummer Night's Dream. So it's very odd that two different cultures that had no connection regarding the naming of these kind of things come up with something similar, right? So the puck wedgie is a very diminutive creature. It's humanoid in shape, sometimes depicted as having long hair. They were the givers of culture. They were also capable of magic and shape-shifting. They were considered, friends to the Native Americans at one time. Then, as according to traditions, so often in folklore from around the world, mankind loses their trust, usually through an act of violence. And then these creatures that once lived within our world is now at war with us, and they live in the periphery of our world, usually in the woods or in deserts or swamps or what have you. And instead of helping us, they're now to be feared. They would waylay us as travelers on back roads at night. They would steal our children. They become an anti-hero in some respects. If you look at the puck wedgie, and you also look at the menehune in Hawaii, very, very similar beings as well, too. So what do we make of this, right? The reason why I was up at the Bridgewater Triangle is because to this very day, people still report encounters with the puck wedgies, right? They're seen, whenever they're out walking their dogs, or they're seen when they're hiking in the woods, and something comes up to them that is, 2-3 foot tall, sometimes covered in hair, sometimes not. And they will motion for the person to come and follow them, and sometimes even make some sort of attempt at verbalization to convince the person to come with them. And we hear this time and time again in a lot of legends and folklore out there as well, too, about a dog man knocking at somebody's door or calling them by name, or hearing their name out in the woods whenever you talk about, a shapeshifter of some kind, right? Or whenever you hear Bigfoot mocking speech. So you have this connectivity with a puck wedgie with so many different things, and it's just an interesting creature that people are still seeing and interacting with, and it's usually this little being, this diminutive creature, trying to convince the person to come into their world.
Report finds most sightings continue to be near military airspace. Second of all, the orb and sphere most commonly witnessed, and then no instances of injury or illness related to UAPs. So those are kind of the big three takeaways. What is your take?
Well, the first one that I want to address is the idea that there are no threats. And yet that goes against the grain of what so many people like Ryan Graves, the former fighter pilot, are saying, David Fravor, another former fighter pilot. I'm not putting those guys down, okay? Not putting them down. They are pro. They are pros. They know what they're doing, okay? But we also have to know that somebody like Ryan Graves is also looking to cash in on the threat narrative with his companies that he has established, okay? And the more it comes out that there is no threat against these against airplanes, commercial, domestic, civilian planes, I love it. I love it because it proves everything that we have been saying on this show, that there is zero threat narrative regarding UFOs. Okay, UAP on a different matter, with a lot of the sightings, this gets to your next point, with a lot of the sightings that are happening over military or nuclear installations, guess what? There's a lot of countries out there that would love to learn American technology. See what the Americans are hiding performance of whether it's 35-year-old Apache helicopters, 40-year-old F-18s or F-16s or F-15s, or the newer versions of the F-35 and F-22. That makes sense to me, okay, that a lot of these incursions with the UAP are actually happening on military bases, because with the way the world is right now, everybody's spying on everybody. Don't think for a second that that isn't happening. And when you can hide someone in a forest, say a couple miles away from a military base, and they put up a silent drone that can be looked at, maybe seen on radar, okay, but not causing any issues, that's a UAP, Tim. Okay, so I think with this report, if we break it on down, and yes, I'm biased here, but once again, we are seeing the difference between UAP and UFOs.
All right, that's the week in review. The Spaced Out Radio Week in Review. We hop in the time machine, we go back and we see all the great guests, all the big moments of the week. And what I'll do is bring my co-host Terry Hall back in the building here. So, interesting week at Spaced Out Radio, Terry. What did you think about that reel?
Absolutely. You know what? I tell you what. Reverend Love, Dr. Love, I have never seen anybody affect Dave that particular way.
Yeah, that was a moment.
But I tell you what, man, hats off. It wasn't just Dave on that particular segment, though. I think that if you were watching, it got me, right?
Yeah.
And then, of course, Melinda is always Melinda. She's awesome. That lady is such a wealth of information. But, you know, Rob, there's been a lot of stuff going on this week, in the month of October, period, really. I mean, we've got the UFO report that dropped, which I don't know. I don't know what you guys thought about it, but for me, at least, it's you know, they're kind of moving the ball forward. It's a process of elimination with them, I guess. They got to get something going somewhere, but just like Spaced Out Radio, as always, everybody delivered again, and yeah, but that one segment there with Dave, when I mean, he didn't even get the show started, and boy, that one punched me in the heart. How about you, man?
It did. It did. I mean, she was speaking a lot of truths, and Dave made a great point, and that's why I had to make sure that we put that reel in there. That happened this week, and if you weren't there to watch it, I definitely recommend that you guys go back and check out that episode. Check out all the episodes from this week. We have an archive, and it's totally free here at youtube.com/spaced out radio. So make sure if you haven't caught up on the week that was Spaced Out Radio, definitely make sure that you do that. So with that out the way, what we can now do is go ahead and bring in our guest. We have a great guest today, and I want to go ahead and bring him in. He's been here before a couple times. He's a spiritualist. I did some research on him, and we're going to go ahead and dive into a lot of that here tonight. So let me go ahead and bring in the man of the hour, Mr. Drew Banky. Hello, Drew. How are you?
What? How's it going?
Drew Banky, ladies and gentlemen. Drew Banky joining Spaced Out Radio tonight. So, Drew, we're going to go ahead and get into some good stuff here. Let's just start out with Drew, right? I like to start out first-time interviews. I like to start out with my guests and find out what took Drew on this path. So if you wouldn't mind just going on a quick little story on how you got, we'll start, from a kid, maybe the first time you had an experience and what led you up to what you're doing today.
Well, this all started April 11th, 1980, over 43 years ago. And when I took my first breath and I entered this ceremony of life and this path of remembrance, and that, it led me finding out when I was just before I was 18, I was adopted. I was adopted when I was 5 days old. So didn't know that my entire childhood, pretty normal childhood, grew up on a farm. My parents weren't well off or whatever, but I mean, it was pretty decent, but grew up on a farm, played sports, and, got into drinking and smoking weed, in high school and end up getting in trouble, for sports in high school. So, moving on from there, I joined the military when I was 19, the Army Reserves, come back from basic training and the first initial training and everything. Again, it was the reserves in the beginning. And then I become a police officer and a sheriff's deputy. I was that for 3 years. And then, so up till about 2005. And then I went active duty. I wanted to go to Iraq, and all the other reserve units were being deployed, and my unit was about to be deployed a few times, and it didn't happen. So I quit being a cop, and I went active duty, and I was in Iraq a couple months later after going active duty. And that was my first deployment in 2005 in Baghdad. Did armored security, and also the job I did in the military was I held a secret security clearance. So I was FO. I called artillery strikes and fixed wing and rotary wing aircraft strikes. More so in my second deployment in 2007 in Ramadi. And so that kind of culminated into got out in 2009. And then from 2009 to 2014, went through a lot of depression, suicidal tendencies, anxiety, the whole rigmarole of PTSD. And had a major suicide attempt in 2014. And that's when I really found out I had PTSD. And then from 2014 and 2016, went through the VA healthcare system and medication and talk therapy and all that, and it really wasn't working. And ayahuasca come to me in a conversation. Someone that I knew had went down the jungle and spent a couple weeks down there drinking the medicine, and come back. And they was a veteran. They come back and could not stop talking about how it helped them. And then I started looking into it, doing research. And so for the next couple months, I did research on it. and everything that it was almost every other article that was coming up, or almost every article that was coming up, was how this was helping veterans heal from PTSD, heal from suicidal ideation, and et cetera, et cetera. So, and then further research went into of where to go. At first, all I could find was places in Peru down south. Me and my wife couldn't afford that cost at that time, and I kind of gave up hope. And my wife was looking in the background over the next couple of weeks without me knowing, and she come to me and said, "Hey, I found a place in Orlando. I booked us, and we're going to drink ayahuasca in 5 weeks." And I was, at that time, I was the poster boy veteran. I was a combat veteran. Nobody could tell me shit. I drank all the time. Ate pills by the handful. And knew there was a higher source or a higher power or something like that, but really didn't care at all. It didn't really spike my interest. And my main focus going to ayahuasca was I was at the end of my rope. I tried everything else, and this was a lot of people saying this was working, and I was kind of just hoping for an answer of some type. And man, it just blew me wide open. Just the first ceremony was hell. I was in the bathroom for like 15 times, didn't see anything, nothing pretty. Next morning, there's like 20 people in ceremony, everyone around me talking about they see the angels and all this shit. Like, I'm in the bathroom just blowing it up for like all night. The next, and I wanted to leave the next morning. I woke my wife up early. I was like, everyone else sleeping. I was like, babe, get up, let's go. I was like, I can't do this. She's like, we paid for a whole nother night, the Saturday night, both of us. I was like, I don't care. They can keep the money. I said, I ain't going through that again, And long story short, she didn't have a good night the first night either, and because it was her first time doing anything like that as well. And that second night it was just got ran over by, I thought it was a train, and at the end it was just a light that overtook me, and went through the tunnel that everybody talks about, the tunnel of light, and I saw like past. At that time, I perceived them as past lives. My perception of those spaces and moments are much different now than it was back then. But at that time, I perceived as past lives. And at the end of this tunnel, I met the spirit of ayahuasca, and basically an introduction. I sobbed in the spirit world when I met her, because it was just such a hard thing to like grasp at that moment, because I just got thrust out of the 3D world into the spirit world, and like standing in front of a spirit in a vast blackness. And this spirit was massive, feminine spirit that took up the whole void of everything else. And I asked her when I kind of felt that I was going back into my body, that this connection was losing. I asked, when will I see her again? And she said, we're going to be working together the rest of your life. Like we've worked together before in other lives. We're going to be working together the rest of this life, and I'll see you soon. And booked the next weekend, went back and did 2 more ceremonies. And that third ceremony, I got shown of me writing books and public speaking and all this stuff. And back then it wasn't Drew at all. That was a different persona. And I've kind of morphed into that reality over these years. And now, founded Sacred Journeys Within in 2020. It's a plant medicine church. We deal with ayahuasca, San Pedro. We also host peyote meetings. We host other shamans coming here doing peyote meetings. And, pretty much dealing with all the master plant medicine teachers and also animal teachers, as far as Bufo varius, and that comes from the Sonoran desert toad and everything, the 5-MeO-DMT that Tyson talks about a lot. We also work with that. That's one of our most popular ceremonies currently. But we're in the process of expansion. We just had our investors out. We're about to buy a second property and a bigger property, and do a lot of expansion and start to offer Egypt tours where we go to Egypt and not do medicine, but we go and do sound healings at sacred sites around the world. We're going to start offering that in 2024 and 2025.
I got to ask a question.
Awesome, dude. Thank you for your service as well. Go ahead, Terry.
When you met the lady, what color was she, Drew?
It was just energy. It was just a pure energy. What best way I could describe it, in the middle of her spirit was a kind of a human resembling apparition, and then from out there was this galactic lace of energy, and it stretched out into the cosmos, into infinity, in all directions.
Well, maybe
So
to
I
be a
was
little bit more specific, the entity that was there in the midst of everything else. Can you remember
Yeah.
this color of the skin of the entity?
It was just energy.
I've had so many people, me included, that talk about the blue lady. And I was just wondering if, because there's so many familiar stories between
Mhm.
one and the other and the other and the other, when you actually take the rocket ride and you end up over there, that
Yeah.
there's been a lot of people that I've spoken to that have spoken to the blue lady. So I was just
Have
curious.
you heard of the Crystal City?
I have, and I've also talked to the machine elves as well.
Yeah, the Crystal City is like supposed to be like the center of the universe. Like that's where Source and Throne Room is, and all that is like. But it's inside a planet that's made of crystal and all, and that's this
Now
actual
there is
place.
another one.
It's we're starting to map these places. These DMT spaces or whatever you want to call it. But it's a vibrational frequency that's there. It's not actual physical thing like we see physical things, but it's an actual thing that multiple people talk about. It's just like the Akashic records. It may be the details, it may be slightly different from one person to the next, but the general definition of these places are the same.
I did. You're one of the very few people that I've heard say we need to map it. I've got
Right.
a
We
I've got a
are
very
mapping it. We're
I've got
mapping
a
it
very
already.
close
Yeah.
I've got a very close friend who, because of an experience, was going through some pretty traumatic dreams, episodic dreams, and the one key for him was to map the place that he kept getting taken back to so he could find his way back from it. But you're one of the very few people that I've ever heard say they need to map the crystal realm, and that, to me, that's amazing. I also know that there at Sacred Journeys, there's another extract that you use. It's called Changa, and
Chunga.
it has
Yeah.
the Chunga, and it has the MAOI inhibitor in it. Now, what does that do?
So it has
Drew?
the same ingredients as liquid ayahuasca. It's just the ingestion form is different. So it's smoked, and it's the onset is much different. It's much different than drinking ayahuasca.
Now,
It's much more direct. But Changa was born out of an ayahuasca ceremony in Australia to a gentleman back in the early 2000s. It's not that old. I believe it's like 2005. I don't recall the gentleman's name. It can be researched. It's all public. It's a Google search, away. But
yeah.
it was born in Australia from ayahuasca ceremony, and the message that would come through ayahuasca was said that the time was coming when it was going to be harder for liquid ayahuasca to travel the planet, and that it was gonna evolve and take on a second form and a more potent form. But it's really Changa is really ayahuasca is just ingested different, smoked. So
you don't have you get all the benefits without any of the physical detriment to it. Is that
not
right?
so much. No, that's not always the case. There's purging, as well, because how I run my Changa ceremonies, we drink ayahuasca first. We drink a cup of ayahuasca, and I'll sing for 45 minutes to an hour, and let the ayahuasca set in, and then I'll go around and each person will take 3 hits of Changa, and right after they, by the time they exhale that third hit, they're laying on their back, and they're disassociated with their body for the next 20 minutes, guaranteed.
Well, first off, Drew, I'm sorry, I've been remiss. I generally do this first off. Thank you for your service. I
I'm
greatly
doing the real
appreciate it.
service now. I'm doing the
And
real service now.
I meant all the way around, not only the service to your country, but the service that you're offering now.
Yeah,
Rob?
no, it's
Yeah.
we're here.
So I did have a couple questions because when you talk about the mapping, so I guess in order to do that, then I'm being under the assumption that um, there's multiple people who are going to the same place. Is that kind of
Mm.
correct? When you're under?
Yeah, there's actually studies being right now which extended DMT states where not particularly working with ayahuasca, it's working with a part of ayahuasca, a part of uh, the traditional ayahuasca and changa is for NN dimethyltryptamine, and but smoking that straight out or intravenous injection, so extended state DMT states where they put people into extended DMT states through intravenous drip, and that's will hold them in this vibrational space for 45 minutes to an hour, and they can, and in that space, because most of the time if you just smoke DMT, you're gonna pop over into, you're gonna see machine elves, you're gonna see a bunch of colors, and you're gonna get thrown back in your body before you even understand what you just saw. Ayahuasca gives you a little bit more structure to it, especially the traditional ceremony, the smoking it, and the changa, because there's traditions behind it and history in the ceremony. So that comes out whenever those portals are opened up again in the ceremony for people. In the DMT, it's all scattered because there's so many different people doing it in so many different forms and fashions. That's why I believe DMT is so scattered like it is. But doing it, in these studies, they're starting to map, and they're starting to really collect data, hardcore data, between across a large amount of people, and there's spaces that keep coming up in these descriptions of these spaces that are the same, over and over again. So it's even though it's a conscious field, it's not, and past sixth, seventh density and above, we're getting into angel realms and things like that. There is no form, but there is still beings, there is still consciousness in those dimensional fields.
And so I guess, and that's crazy. I'm soaking it all in, and I had a question about that as well because with the amazing story you just told on your path to being awakened, essentially. Was this your, once you had this experience, was this your first time experiencing something when you had the ayahuasca, if I'm saying it right?
Ayahuasca. I've definitely had my rounds of doing drugs when I was a kid, 19 years old, 20 years old. I moved from Ohio, went down to Florida, and you know, um, did things, different psychedelics, but
Yeah.
nothing with intention like that. Like, nothing with healing intention or anything like that. And there's definitely a difference in that. The intention, setting, that's why when we do whole retreats here, lots of times our work starts sometimes years before we actually meet these people and they come out for ceremony. We talk to them. Um, you know, sometimes it's been over 2 years that we've talked to someone before they actually show up in person out here to do ceremony. So it's a long process. You know, it's not just drop in some acid and go to Ybor City or something like that. You know, it's just it's totally different.
Yeah, and that's why I asked you that, because I was young at one point in time, and came across hallucinogenics as a youngster, and I've just felt like for myself I've always said that I think that some people, their minds are unlocked and able to access these conscious state of minds naturally, and then there are some, I feel like, that go through the path of like the ayahuasca, or even something as simple as like a LSD or mushroom, um are things that I feel like may be like the keys to unlock the mind. And I
Yeah.
feel like I've been that way for a long time, and I don't know if it would have been related to any of that from my younger years, but it's just, yeah, that's why I wanted to ask you that, because I know the feeling of having your mind unlocked and how you can ascend. It feels like you can ascend.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I'm glad you touched on that.
You know, it's this path, a lot of people in the beginning, you know, they get it confused with, you know, their Christ resurrected, and you know, there's everyone goes through processes, you know, even myself, and um I would say I'm still going through my process, you know, of self-worth and all that. But you know,
Well, look,
go ahead.
no, it looks like you've been on quite the journey. I mean, you're a sun dancer, you're a medicine man, you're a veteran, you're married. Well, we know who you're married to, very fortunately. Look at the smile on his face. I just married. I just mentioned it. And it, you've been
She's
down
amazing.
a lot of.
She's an amazing woman, and I tell her all the time, you know, that my wife has been through a journey, you know, being beside me, and she's had her own, you know, experiences and awakenings too. But I'm really fortunate to have started this journey side by side with her, because I believe if we didn't, it would have been a lot harder to for everyone to process. You know, the communication, um, you know, especially like the path that I'm on, whether it's self-imposed or ancestrally imposed or AI imposed or whatever it is. It's happening, and she's been beside me every step of the way, and it takes a strong woman to do that. So,
Hats off to your wife, by the way, Drew. Well, you've been
yeah,
an
Agreed.
author. You're an author. You're a medicine man. You're a musician, a veteran. Um, let me ask you one thing, Drew. What is probably one of the most first, actually, two. One is, how did you become a sun dancer? The other is, what's one of the most memorable experiences you've had at Sacred Journeys?
uh, I guess I became a sun dancer. I'll tackle that one first. The other one I got to think about for a minute. But the sun dancer. So, you know, I guess it came through ayahuasca, when Standing Rock protests broke out, after I drank ayahuasca and was on the medicine path, and you know, started having dreams of me being out in South Dakota, me being around ceremonies, me living in like you know, a community and like that I didn't recognize and everything, but I recognized them as, you know, precognition dreams. Definitely, um, they weren't just wild dreams. They were definitely. I would definitely, you know, woke up and like kind of confused where I was. So that happened a lot, a few times before Standing Rock. So started to organize a donation drive to deliver goods out to tribe members that was protesting the pipeline for Standing Rock. And that started off with me and my wife was going to load up a vehicle, whatever we could load up and go. And it turned out to be 2 vehicles, 5 people, and a bunch of stuff. And we had to give a bunch of stuff away had to sort through stuff. And I had a whole garage full of stuff like real quick. But ended up taking that out there to Standing Rock and was supposed to deliver it. And a blizzard broke out while we were there, kind of got stuck. And on the way out, we stopped at the casino. We ended up, was right a couple miles away from where the main protest was, and was stranded there for over a day. It snowed in. It was a major blizzard, and when the group was getting ready to go back, I was like, I had a dream. I was like, I got to go back to Standing. I have to go back to the camp. So what's supposed to be a 2 or 3 day, started out to be a 2 or 3 day trip ended up being almost a 2-month stay where I was staying there. I ended up staying in Okichita War Society, kind of the whole camp was Ochetiscoe, which is a Seven Fires camp, is a Dakota camp. And there was over 20,000 people there. And my camp within the camp where I stayed at was people that were in charge of security. When they had protests, we would go up there and make sure that people wouldn't throw anything, making sure the police and the military sides wouldn't do anything, and trying to keep people safe, basically, and looking out for the children, elders. And there's many camps like that inside the bigger camp, but I was part of one of those camps and kind of got, taken in. I kind of just showed up back there from the casino after the blizzard. Things were kind of like calming down, and I met a few people at the casino that told me people to talk to when I went back there. So I went back there not knowing where I was going to stay, basically with a sleeping bag and the clothes on my back and stuff, and not knowing anybody there. My girlfriend at the time, my wife now, and took off and went with the group back to Florida, and because there was things that she had to do back there, but yeah, it was just a wild ride. And went through more blizzards there. I saw lightning during blizzards twice, so it lit up the sky blue. So that it goes back to that, and that's where I got my name, Blue Thunder Man, from ceremony. I was there when that happened, and then I ended up sun dancing and all. A long story, but I ended up getting invited at Standing Rock to go to a Sundance in Upper Peninsula, and I got invited by Soaring Eagle Woman, Beatrice Kiwa Jackson is her name, Soaring Eagle Woman, and she has ended up being the woman that named me. So she's the one that went into trance and found my name, Blue Thunder Man. I also sundanced with her in the Arbor, so she's a sun dancer as well. In her 60s, she's just a very powerful woman. And yeah, she invited me at Standing Rock, and I wasn't sure if I was going to go. And a couple months before the actual, it started in July. I think it was like April, May. I started having dreams of me being in the Arbor dancing. So I started talking to her on the phone. She's like, "It sounds like you're not going to come witness a Sundance. It sounds like you're coming here to dance and pray." So, just kept going with that flow, and that flows, it's now we have advisory board for Sacred Journeys Within. We have a pharmacist that owns multiple companies internationally that's on our advisory board, and he's heading up our. He's the one that found us our investor and everything, and it's amazing what's happening now. And the other part of it, the biggest thing, craziest thing that I've ever seen, I don't know, man. It's
a tall order, huh?
I don't know. I've talked about a lot of things on this channel. You know, I've seen ET face to face. I've seen Bigfoot face to face. I've had amazing experiences. You know, I've experienced telekinesis. I've experienced, you know, telepathy. I've experienced had multiple sightings. I got tons of videos on. I got probably about 4 or 5 different videos of instances around my house and stuff. One just recently is on my YouTube. I shared actually about a month ago when I was on Spaced Out Radio. There's a UFO event over Mount Blanca, but
Mm-hmm.
you know, all these experiences really has opened up a portal inside of me, you know, and I understand that each and every one of us has a portal inside of us. Like the way out is within. And, you know, also when you get there, like don't a lot of people like have a habit of stopping at the gate and praying at the gate, you know, when they have an experience, instead of going into the inner temple and like praying inside the inner temple, like going past that gate. A lot of people get caught up at the gate, and man, that onion just keeps on folding, man, over and over and over again.
Yeah, that's deep, man. That's deep, and I want to get deep with you because I was watching some stuff on you, and I know, you know, you're a real spiritual guy, and a lot of that stuff is meaningful, and it applies when it comes down to it. If we realize what we are and who we are, and how this all plays into, you know, step aside from your daily life and what you're used to, and open your mind up and then listen to what it is that you're saying, because I agree with a lot of the things that I saw you say. This is back when you had braids like these, man. You're rocking the long hair, man. I was like, this
Yeah.
dude is hanging with the natives for sure, you know what I mean? So, and I wanted to get in there. We got like 2 minutes before break. It Can you just explain, for me and for others that may not really understand, the whole medicine man aspect, like what is it technically, and then how do you get the label?
You
Um,
want him to do that in 2 minutes, Rob?
Yeah, I mean, if he I'll cut it. Well, you know, he knows we're
how
gonna
I
cut
got the
Well,
you know, the label. You know, I went through, you know, an apprenticeship, if you will, through a more experienced medicine man named Renato Guerrero from Chile. He's an international medicine man practicing namely in San Pedro Huachuma, but also ayahuasca and other, you know, his experience really exudes out through all plant medicines. But spent a lot of time with him, and you know, he pushed me to my limits a lot of times in ceremony, and made me realize who I was. And who I am is just a mirror, you know, on this earth, so people can see what's possible. I'm also a mirror to allow people to share and start to process their own experiences, because really, like, you can listen to my stories all night long, but what my main goal is, by telling my stories, is for you to start processing your own experiences, so you can find that those mystical experiences that you can't deny, that you have to go through the rest of your life and say, okay, there's a spirit world there, you know. And I'm however that happens, whether it be through medicine, breath work, cold plunges, ayahuasca, or, you know, doing whatever, like however it happens, like I hope it happens, and that's my mission, really.
Man, resonates with me, dude. Straight up. I mean, and we'll dive into that into the second hour. So right now, what we're gonna do is go ahead and pause for a break. We will be right back with Drew Banky getting deep, talking about some spiritual stuff, man, opening minds and serving a purpose here tonight. That's definitely what we're gonna do.
Let, let,
Uh
let's let's talk about the central sun. Let's dive into the sun.
we're gonna dive into the Central Sun at Drew Banky's request. You heard it. When we come back, an hour two only on Spaced Out Radio. All right. Welcome back to Spaced Out Radio after hour number 2 with me, your host, Mr. Rob G and Mr. Terry Hall. And we have our guest, Drew Banky, in the building, and we're going deep. So you left off last hour, Drew, wanting to talk about the triangle sun.
No, the central sun.
The
As
Central
above,
Sun, yeah.
Central
so
sun. Let's go.
below.
Let's go. Yeah, let's hear about that. What is that?
Central Sun. I do have a random little story that just totally random, but it's a cool story.
Okay.
You guys ever heard the relation between a wolf and a mountain lion?
No.
Crazy story. I just heard on Rogan the other day. So these mountain lions are so efficient at killing, especially like the old toms, like the older males. Like they're so efficient at killing, they're like 70 or 80% efficient, like at catching prey. Wolves are like way less than that, like 10%. So what they stumbled upon by studying these wolves, they started to see that the wolves were following a cat, and they were overwhelming them when they got a kill. So then they watched it even further, and they saw over like a 6-month time frame, the cat started to learn this. He started to make kills, a small kill, and then he would leave it for the wolf pack, and he would go and hunt bigger game and take it back to his den. And he would also, before he would go back to his den, he would make a kill and leave a kill a couple miles away from his den, where his family was. It was amazing, man. Just to see, just the intelligence of beings and the evolution and how fast people like beings can adapt. Animals, the animal kingdom can adapt. It's amazing. I don't know why I wanted to share that, but
No, it
No, I,
is
re-
though.
I, re- I recalled that story, and that one got me too. But with the central sun, you're talking about as above, so below, right, Drew?
yeah, I mean, there's the Central Sun too. We was talking about the Crystal City and Akashic Records and stuff. Central Sun is, there's that as well, and there's a lot of speculation on what that is. A lot of people believe it's the center star of Orion's belt. A lot of people believe that's the portal of this space that we're in. As far as space and galaxies and everything that we're seeing and feeling, and planets and everything, that a lot of people believe that's the central sun. Some people believe our sun that we see rise in the east and set in the west is the central sun, and some people believe that the central sun is a different thing, in a different space. Me personally, I believe that the central sun is the sun that rises in the east and sets in the west that we see in the sky. That is the central sun. I believe here on Earth, we're the center of the manifestation of the cosmos. I think that it's being channeled through us. And actually, while we were on break, this thing come up for me. Where I was thinking about what I was going to say when we come back on, and I wanted to kind of explain how I see us, and a lot of indigenous tribes, both South American and South and North American indigenous tribes, spiritual leaders see it as father, son, and Mother Earth, and we're the conduits in between. And this thing came to me while we were on break. I said, we are the vibrational thread that lies in between Father, Son, and Mother Earth, and we are the thing that dictates change in that fractal to what happens to it. That fractal goes through us, and we dictate what happens to it. Everything else just happens on its own. The animal kingdom and nature, it's in a synergistic flow that's all connected. We are the only ones that really dictate change in that, and that's for our personal, that's a lot of times for our personal gain. That's what's messing up the flow of all this fractals. But if we can all get on the same page of how these fractals are going to go on this earth, like, we won't have to have any of that. I believe we're nearing the end of the lesson of duality. And I think I think that's when people talk about, I talked about this with Grant before a lot, and on a lot of other shows, but I believe that we're at this doorway we're about to step through and move into something more than human. Still human, but we're going to be more than human. We're going to start to unlock, special abilities that are laying dormant really through indoctrination and everything over the past couple hundred years or whatever. But I think we're coming out of that slowly but surely, and definitely these psychedelics is part of that renaissance. It's not the psychedelic renaissance we're seeing. We're seeing something much bigger than that.
Wow. That's pretty deep. And I thought about that before the show. Because I was like, okay, Drew is a real deep dude. So and you essentially said one of the things that I was thinking about, which was unlocking some of our abilities that are actually dormant. And and I totally believe that we have capabilities that we have forgotten how to use. And once we figure out how to get to that or how to control some of those abilities that we have, then yeah, we will ascend higher than we are. Almost like a bird. If a bird were taken out of the sky and forced to walk for the next 100 years, they would still have the ability to fly, but it'd be something that they forgot. And I think we have some of those capabilities as well that we just have forgotten what they are. And there will be a day coming at one point down the line where we reconnect with whatever it is that we can do and kind of ascend, man. So I connect with you on that. And I thought about that before the show. I was like, and we're on the same page with that. So that's pretty wild. What do you think,
Well,
Ted?
there's an old story that goes around, guys. The story goes like this: 5 monkeys are in a cage, and there's a banana at the top of the cage, right? Every time one of the monkeys tries to get the banana, they get sprayed with cold water. Okay? So they pull one of the monkeys out after it's been in there for a while and put a fresh monkey in there. Well, every time that monkey goes to get the banana, the other 4 monkeys beat that monkey up, right? That monkey's never been sprayed with water, but it knows every time it tries to climb, it gets beat up. Okay? So eventually they get all 5 brand new monkeys in there, and there's no banana at the top of the cage, and they all know not to climb. Do you guys, each one of you in your own beliefs, think that could have been why all of the spark of divinity that we have has been dismissed or done away with? Do you think, without being crass about it, that it was beaten out of us at an earlier time, or that we just forgot because of the resets that we've experienced as a culture?
Yeah, I'm just
Hypnosis. We've been people, there's half the United States or half of the world or more that scoffs at the idea of hypnosis. But I guarantee there's a large portion, especially if you went to public schools over the past 40 or 50 years, we've been hypnotized to give the United States of America, for which it stands, to the republic, and pray to this flag. We focus our attention, all our attention and intention to this piece of fabric. Millions of people every morning giving their energy to this. Powers to be harvesting that under the guise of government, because the powers to be is not the government. It's something much different than that. They understand the powers of mind. They understand the powers of energy, and they've affected everything, all the way to Hollywood and making stories that making it to so we can't talk about our experiences. We can't talk about our mystical experiences that is really a divine spark touching us and trying to ignite us. And it's really ourselves. from another dimensional field, a much higher state, a much more in the future state of us coming back and touching ourselves, trying to waken ourselves up.
Well, Drew, with what you do there at Sacred Journeys, um, and in a lot of your in a lot of what I've read from you, it seems that society as a whole has lost touch with the pineal gland, and it's just our pineal gland has become so calcified that it's basically unusable. Is there a way, as for the general public, to start to reverse that process and decalcify the pineal gland?
One, stop using fluoride. Our teeth are kind of antennas. Like, if you think of tuning forks and everything, if you were to look on our bodies, like what would be tuning forks on our bodies? Our teeth. Our teeth are directly connected to points in our head, especially our front teeth. Our front four teeth are connected up, and it goes up to our pineal gland. So when we go to the dentist and have fluoride treatments, things like that, that's the first thing you can do. But start to pray and start to believe. Find a language, and when I say language, I'm talking about a religion. Find a language that you can resonate with to hear the message. Whether it be Vedic or I would suggest go all the way back to the beginning. We're talking about Vedic and Mayan and the practices that pray to the sun, because I believe those are the if why would you go halfway back through the timeline through all religious practices? Why wouldn't you just go back to the beginning ones? Because the beginning ones, they talk about doing sun gazing in the morning, looking at the sun when it rises the first 5 minutes, because you can look directly at the sun without it hurting your eyes, looking at the sun when it's setting, and man, do it and get back to me and tell me what you see, because I've seen some crazy things, and one time I was sun gazing in the morning, I was looking at the sun, I was doing I was doing like I am, and so is everything around me. There's no difference, there's nothing in between me and the sun but illusion. And the rays that was coming from the sun, they went from going straight from the sun coming into my eyes to being curved out, and I become part of this light circle that was coming from the sun. The sun rays weren't straight anymore. They were curved out on each side, and I was part of it. I was part of a dance with the sun. And, I stood that for about a couple seconds before my mind, I had to step away from that and process it for a while. And looking at the setting sun in the evening is good too. Vedic old practices that talk about the morning sun gazing, they talk about how it can start to open up pathways to better your day to day, if you do daily sun gazing. Because if you think about how fast rays travel, within the first 15 minutes, the rays of the earth are already hitting the earth that are coming that day. So if we get up in the morning and catch those rays as they start to come over the horizon, we can start to catch the codes of the day. The ancients talk about how the sun gazing, you could start to actually predict things during the day over time, because you were receiving the codes through your crystal portals, your eyes. There's particles of crystals in your eyes. There's particles of crystals in your head, and in different parts of your body. Small particles of crystals. This is, it started to become a scientific fact now. It's not even just speculation. When I first started talking about this stuff a couple of years ago, is speculation. Now they're starting to find proof of it, especially in the eyes. But the sun going through those portals, you can start to get the codes, and you can start to really your deja vu will start to happen more, synchronicities will happen more, and that's you just becoming more in alignment with the sun and ultimately source. That's the central sun is source. It's really, if you think about it, like all life on this planet comes from the sun. It's if we're eating something, it's coming through a plant, and if we're eating a burger, it's coming through a plant, through a cow, through middlemen. You heard about breatharians. I've spoke about them before on the show. There's
Yes.
people out there. There's people out there that just eat sun. And that's it. They don't drink water. They don't eat food. They do 6 to 8 hours of sun meditation a day, and they receive their energy directly that way. There's no digestion or anything else like that. And I think we're all headed there in a way. Even though I love eating burgers and everything else. I think we're headed there. Food's an addiction for sure.
I think you've gotten fairly well in touch with your etheric light body if you're able to bend sun rays there, Drew.
I think it's just, I think it's our perception, and like I talk about my first book, I'm Perfect and So Are You. It's about the divinity nature of creation.
Mhm.
And the title is a twofold thing. It's meant to put people back in their seat, like, because we're the whole no, nothing's perfect, don't worry, Tommy, nothing's perfect, this, that, and the other. Like, it's all bullshit, dude. Everything is perfect. Like, put your perception in, how I, I spent a long time like coming up and like looking at my teachers, looking at these elders walking around, just this smirk, half smirk on their face all the time. I'm like, what the hell do they know? I found out, like, it's like we are eternal. We're walking gods, and we're having to find a balance in that while still being human. And we're all those truths are truths in my as far as I'm concerned. And the repercussions or what's happening in the background in my my physical life and everything. I'm reaching 3 hours and 21 minutes. I've been doing interviews today. I started at 11 o'clock this morning doing interviews and on a podcast of mind body matters, and we talk about mind body spirit and the connection. And one of his first questions was, what is your viewpoint on the mind body connection of our existence? My answer was, I believe it's why we're here. I believe we start off from our first breath, and I think it's a path of remembrance. And then it's a path of balancing the mind, body, spirit, and having all those entities moving forward, all those energies or parts of ourselves moving forward as one unit. And because if one's off balance, it can really throw the other ones into a tailspin, But this is the reason we're here, is to find balance of all that. And we're here to, I think one of the biggest things of our time frame and of time in humanity right now, we're starting off in a very solid understanding of 3D understanding as a collective. And a lot of us are going to see a different reality towards the end of our times in this particular meat suit body. We're going to see a totally different understanding of consciousness towards the end of this lifetime. And I believe that's what's so interesting about our time, and why our future selves are here watching this experience, because we're crossing the threshold from humanity to something more than human, to 3D to 4D to 5D, whatever you want to call it. But it's definitely, we're going through a shift, and it's on a collective scale, and it's also on an individual. It's an individual sport as well.
You are going in the perfect direction. It's synergy right now, because you brought up the question that you were asked earlier, and the question that I had for you and still have, which tags along with what you were just saying, is, okay, in your opinion, the day, so whenever this is, the day that we get to the point to where everyone in humanity has woken themselves up, and we're all on that new spiritual level. In your opinion, where do we go next? So once we globally have realized what we are, where do you, in your opinion, what do you think that next step is, if you were to guess?
That's a hard one because it's the possibilities are endless. You know, the boundaries are being destroyed, and a lot of us, the boundaries are destroyed, and they're not repairable. You know, these boundaries of understanding, and I don't know where it goes from there. You know, a time of peace, I guess. You know, this threat narrative you talked about in the review. I was listening to review as I was going through and everything, and the threat narrative keeps coming up with everything. It's absurd to me. Like for true understanding of who our star being relatives and that are who really are, the visiting from other planets to this planet right now, watching this shift, whether they be in uh, you know, a physical state or a non-physical state, but they're here and they're watching, and they're us in the future. Like, so, you know, where the understanding of oneness is part of this spiritual awakening that a lot of people are going through. Like, they, you know, you blast off on, you eat too many mushrooms and you pass out by a creek and you wake up and you understand that, you know, you see a tree breathing, and you understand that your breath is connected to that swaying tree, is connected to the wind, is connected to everything. Oh my God, I'm part of, you know, you have that oneness moment. So if we're having these oneness moments in this dense state that we're in right now, what do you think is going to happen in a couple of years from now? Like, we're going to have deeper experiences of oneness. And if you fast forward a trillion years from now, like, the oneness aspect is not even a conversation anymore. When I see you, I understand that I'm looking at a part of me that's also part of this consciousness that shares the consciousness field that I share. So how could I get mad at you? How could I get angry? How could I do nothing but lift you up and move and push you forward? Because if I'm pushing you down, then I'm pushing myself down. If I'm pushing you up, I'm pushing myself up.
Well, Drew, with your experiences in speaking with non-human intelligence, um, I've noticed that since the last awakening, a lot of the new people that have been brought into this have been brought in kicking and screaming, being shown time and time again, apocalyptic visions. Uh, the more I speak with of the newer folks that have been brought into this, that seems to be a very common thread. Has that been your experience as well?
Yeah, it's called you know, there's many couple different terms for it. You know, the shaman dream, the awakening dream. I definitely had it. You know, I went through a period where over like a 2 month span, I was having a dream every night, and one night, you know, turned in would the end of one night would start off then at the following night, you know, and I saw you know, volcanic eruptions, flooding, you know, all types of things. It's part. I see it now as part of. It's part of a level of faith, you know, and so when we started having, my wife started having dreams of coming out here to, and we started seeing Crestone, Colorado, which is about an hour and a half north of us here in the San Luis Valley. We're in an elevated valley. We're 8,200, 8,300 feet, and um, I'm not here by accident, you know, and I didn't choose elevated valley to live in, but after we found this place and things started happening of really showing us this is where we're supposed to be. I really understood of why I need to be in the elevated valley, you know, and this is going to kind of be a island at one point in my lifetime, I believe. You know, because these apocalyptic dreams, you could call them apocalyptic. You could call them also cleansing, you know, or you call them just cycles that the earth has been through many, many times. There's going to be other times in the future it's going to go through these cycles, but we're about to live through one of these actual cycles through in our lifetime. A lot of us read books, Bibles, Qurans, all these different spiritual texts, and read about all these cool, prophetic, mystical, magical times. What would it be like to live during one of them? Well, we're about to find out.
So you truly
Well,
believe that?
we're finding out. Like, if you think we're not in a prophetic time right now, don't have your eyes open. You know, we're about to enter a war. World War III is knocking at the door any minute. You know, CNN's going to pop up. Like, we're in World War III. Like, there's two major wars. Like, I'm talking about conventional wars. You know, when I was in Iraq, like, we were at war, but we were doing guerrilla warfare, you know, basically. But with the insurgents, we're talking about conventional wars, like with big boy toys.
You absolutely struck a chord when you said they were episodic dreams, because I've had a lot of people tell me, dude, I'm having these dreams and I can set this can down on the table tonight and when I dream tomorrow, I can go back and pick that same can up off the same table. And I've heard that story time and time and time and time again. And it's concerning. It's very concerning.
You know, it is at first, I think, but you know, on the grand scheme of things, even if you don't make it, say there's a flood, like, and I'm just throwing something out there,
just throwing it out there,
and say like some of us don't make it through that flood. That's our physical bodies. Like, I'm telling you, like, I've been through a near-death experience. For me, like, the epiphany and the understanding that comes with a near-death experience and comes from the death experience, the death ceremony itself. You go from worrying about a lot of shit to just having a huge breath, and it's like, wow, you know, it's like, because you think about, like, if anything happens, like, even, you know, anything that happens, wildfires that burn up 1 million acres, you know, burn up half the United States, in the grand scheme of the entirety of eternity, that is a speck of time, and there's a reason for it. You know, there's the ground needed cleanse. It needed nitrogen, whatever. Like, we don't even know. That's not our point to judge of, you know, basically the decisions of the universe. We need to find the beauty in the decisions of the universe. And there's plenty. There's a point where you do, like, you can just, and it's your perception of the moment is dictating. You know, it's just using the word apocalypse. Like, I don't use apocalypse when I'm talking about things like that anymore, because it doesn't apply to, like, my understanding of it. I see it as a cycle that's been going on over and over again. That's why we got pyramids all over the earth, you know, because the cycle has been going on over and over again. We kept trying it, different formulas. This time is going to be a little different. It's going to be better than a lot of times in the past, but we have to have all those experiences.
Well, with Rob speaking about synergy earlier, and with some of the things that you say, and forgive me if I misquote you, but it was with us being the source of all creation through the power of manifestation. That's what it was.
Here, I'll give it to you now. So this was my first channeling from Source, and I channeled, you know, Archangel Michael, Osiris, and a couple other things, and then Source. And then after I channeled Source, I couldn't channel anything else. You know, it was just like I crossed the threshold that I couldn't go back go back to, and eventually just started, not channeling, just kind of being together with it. I'm kind of just now, I just kind of am together with it, that field. But the first channeling from source was, I am the source of all creation. You are the creator through the power of manifestation. Step back into your power to facilitate the upcoming evolutionary shift.
Thank you. That was it. That was exactly what I was thinking about, Drew. Exactly. Thank you. You
Yeah.
know, we go out and do trips. Everybody knows, everybody here at Spaced Out Radio knows what we do. Me and Tim Senor, and um, you are a person that would be more than welcome with us. More than welcome with us. For a good many reasons, besides the fact that I just love to sit across the table from you and pick your brain, while I'm feeding you. But there's another thing that you do that I've heard many stories about you about, and it's CE5. When did you come into that talent? And is it a talent that is teachable?
It is. You know, um, it's a vibrational thing for sure. I started seeing a lot of ships while practicing medicine music, practicing with the trongo or guitar or the flute or the didgeridoo or something like that. I'd spend late nights like up and practicing with it. So, and I would be sitting by a window, and a lot of times I would see something, by the window. And as soon as I would see it, like it would mess it all up, but if I just kept playing, I learned I could start seeing it more, and then heard about Greer and the C5s and stuff like that, and started seeing videos. I was like, man, that's some of some of the same stuff like started going on. And just pushing the envelope like I have with everything, and seeing what could happen, and seen some stuff even way past C5s, and freak myself out sometimes. And there's been times I've sat outside and manifest shooting stars on demand, and sit outside for hours and do this. And there'd be times I'd call up my buddy up in Crestone, and be like, one of the only people I can really talk to about some of this stuff, and on this level. And I'm like, man, I'm looking out at the stars, and it's pretty consistently over the past couple hours, I've called a shooting star on demand, like for hours. And I've had, probably 60 to 70 to 80 of these things happen, and to the point where I'm just like freaking out here about to throw up. He's like, well, aren't you out there trying to do it? And it's,
Drew, your story to me is absolutely more than familiar, because my best friend on planet Earth is going through a lot of exactly what you're going through. And I don't mean to be a spoil sport here, Rob, or drop things a bit too early, but please hang around for hour 3. Watch what's coming, because my best friend went through a lot of the same things that you're describing to me. The episodic dreams, being able to call things on demand. With you being called the Blue Thunder Man, I think you're going to be really surprised at some of the things that are coming later on in our show today. Yeah, Rob?
Yeah, I agree. And just to extend the invitation, Drew, you're more than welcome to hang out during hour 3 if you'd like. If you have the time, you can give your live opinion on what it is we're going to go over as well.
yeah, I'd
Especially if
love
you'd
to.
like to
I'm all
see,
about it.
Okay.
especially if you'd like to see something that goes very well along with your alias
I,
there, Blue
I,
Thunderman.
I and I love it. I
And let
got.
me
Go ahead.
no, let me ask you this, Drew, because I don't really want to go back, because you kind of already said this sort of, but I just wanted to kind of elaborate on. So, like with you said powers that be are pretty much suppressing us and not necessarily the government, but then the government though as well.
Yeah.
So you know how you have the Project Stargates and the things like that. So we know that governments, not just our own, are um, what I feel like potentially are kind of probing humanity, not necessarily for, well, I guess they're weaponizing it, but do you feel like they are and have been attempting to figure out what we are capable of as far as that goes? And then by them understanding what some of our abilities might be as humanity, are they then at the same time countering that by suppressing our ability to do anything with it as a whole? And is that part of, do you feel like that's part of the control mechanism that they are using over humanity? And I was thinking about that as you said when you made that statement, and I'm just wondering what you think about that idea, or how you feel about that.
Yeah, I believe. I mean, absolutely. The the powers to be, they know about how energy works. They know that we can harness energy through our consciousness. That's we're basic these conduits that are in between. They know about Reiki healing. This goes all the way back to Jesus. This is why he was crucified the way he was. That's why he was crucified through his hands, through his meridian points in his hands. Anyone that does Reiki healing or anything like that, or has held a pendulum over their hand, knows that there's energy coming out of your hands. And there's also energy coming out of the bottom of your feet, where he was also crucified at. And there's also energy coming out of your crown chakra. So this is why he was crucified the way he was, because this was really the beginning of them seeing magic, them seeing a superhuman being, as a human being in this life. And the suppression of it goes so deep. Once you start to realize how deep it goes, and how far the sickness has spread into everything, it'll really trip you out. Like the 9 to 5 work week, and given 85% of the population just barely enough to survive, if not a little less. That's by design. It's socially accepted slavery on a very deep level. The all the UAP, the conferences and committee meetings that's been recently, all the whistleblowers that's been coming out, it's really apparent that my general look on that, that's a direct attack on humanity. There's people that's literally lost their lives over the UFO phenomenon, the spirituality phenomenon, because they've been suppressed into a point of depression and suicide. And that's murder. That's straight up murder. And it's the victims are countless. But thankfully now, like, there's some truth that's coming out. But if they want to really let out the truth, like, what is our relationship to ET, and how long have they known about it? Like, I want to know that. Like, I really want to know how long they've known about it. I know it had to be a long time, probably since Roswell or before.
Yeah, man, that is, and thanks for that answer and confirming that, because I mean, when you think about it, when we just generally, without touching the consciousness aspect of it, we all agree that the government is at least holding us back from understanding the whole ET aspect and allowing us to make that connection. But then when you think on a consciousness level, and then those things that they did, those tests that they did run on human beings, and it just makes sense that it gives them the upper hand when it comes to finding out and understanding what we are actually capable of, so that they can implement ways to counteract that. So I appreciate that, Drew.
Yeah, and
That's a bomb right there.
you know, how do you control superheroes? Like, we're turning into superheroes.
Yeah.
Like, I myself, I feel like people ask me like, oh, do I worry about, you know, repercussions of, you know, the federal government or something coming in and doing a raid on my church or whatever? If they do, they do. Like, but I'm still gonna be, you know, doing what I do up until that point with full faith, because, you know, I've asked this question before, like, what am I supposed to do if this happens or whatever? And the message that keeps coming back to me is like, you operate under a different law, operate, you know, under a different faith, like, that supersedes man law. Like, it's like dealing with someone with real money and monopoly money. You know, and I have the real money, and that, you know, the monopoly money is trying to tell me to do this. Like, it's a joke.
You're speaking my language, Drew. You are totally speaking my language, man.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, Drew, is going back to people that have been brought into this recently, maybe even not so recently. I've noticed that some of the newer ones, standing back on the outside looking in, you can see where people are being brought in for a skill set that they have, or something that they can do to keep the toothpaste out of the tube. How long do you think it's going to be, Drew, before we get past this word disclosure? Because I believe we've already gone past disclosure. We're
Oh
gone
my
past
God.
that.
I mean, I've talked about this a million times, dude. Like, disclosure is like, if we're waiting, why would we not trust the government and all this stuff? But then when it comes to disclosure, we're going to wait on a congressional meeting. Dude, disclosure is you going out and looking at the stars and you tell me what's out there. You know, that's disclosure. Like, it's on a very personal level. You know, that's like when I was going through all this thing, a lot of these spirits kept telling me, like, whatever you do, like, for me, Drew, like, on my path, do not let myself become a deity, because there's going to be a point in time when people's going to want to deify me. They want to externalize this. I'm going to keep pushing it back inside, because I'm trying to open up you, each and every one of you, because we're all cells of source. Just like just like thinking about all the cells in our body right now. Just think if each and every one of these cells had their own name, and Drew, and, you
That's a
know,
long
Dave,
list of names, Drew.
and all these cells separated, you know, consciously separated themselves, but they're still part of my body. This is like, this is what we are, of source, the one consciousness. You can call it, you don't have to call it source. I call it source because it's, you know, it goes by 100 million different names, but when you get down to it, it's the same thing.
Drew, it's becoming more and more apparent as this goes on that the consciousness aspect is exceedingly important in this. The people that I've been working with, our little group, are trying to bring forth empirical evidence for the fact. How can what people like you and Grant and so many others do on the consciousness side of this, and what we do trying to bring the nuts and bolts empirical evidence into this as a public entity, how can we bring those together and make them work together?
Through just hashing it out, man. You know, we're all, like, you know, just like there's a lot of positions holding us back on the other side. A lot of us are reincarnating or coming into this dimensional field in physical form to do different tasks. You know, I know that I'm one of I'm one of the ushers of this. I've done it many a times. You know, I'm sorry, I've had memories of it. You know, you know, there's a lot more of us. You know, a lot of people in the podcast forum and things like that are on this same mission, you know, of trying to sort out all the cobwebs inside ourselves and form words to get people to digest it. You know, a lot of people that go through the spiritual awakening, especially in the beginning, they'd be babbling for days, and you won't understand the thing they're saying. You know, and they don't understand the thing they're saying. You know, but
Well,
if you can start to materialize words and get people into that space inside their own head, that's, you know, that's the real work.
well, honestly, Drew, for us, it was a learning experience. We went out with good intentions, intents of pure, pure of heart. Uh, but what we found is the more people that we find like you that can come out with this, the more success we have as a group, the more success we have getting things documented, getting them on film, uh, and in many different ways, be it radar or film or whatever man has come up with. We've found that for us to be a success, we need you for that success to manifest.
Well, I mean, I appreciate that, but it's, you know, it's the more people, the higher vibration, you know, and, you know, just having, I've seen ships done C5s just with people in conversation, you know, just having a conversation like we're having right now around a fire or whatever. Oh, look, you know, and also with psychedelic assisted um, C5s and unintentionally, you know, just doing ceremonies with medicine, ships showing up. That's happens a lot. There's a lady did several ayahuasca ceremonies with me in Florida, and come out here to Colorado. She was celebrating her birthday and did a whole extended retreat with us where she basically did a couple different ceremonies. And one of the ceremonies we was doing with San Pedro, we started in the evening and went into all the way till midnight or past, because it was a full moon out, so we could like actually hike at night out in the desert, you know.
Hmm.
So we found a little cave and lit a fire, and we were sitting there talking. I was playing the flute, singing music and whatnot. We were just having a high vibe conversation. Everybody's chilling, relax. And she was looking at me and she's like, Drew, you know, you talk about ships all the time, and you know, seeing videos and all this stuff, and you know, it's just kind of my birthday, and I just always wanted to see a ship. And she was looking at me like, and it was like 10, 11 o'clock at night, and I was like, well, just turn around and look, like behind you right there. Then, and because right there's a ship, you know, because when I was looking at her, a ship just popped out as she was saying it. I was like, wow, this is pretty cool. This is pretty cool. Like if I had to write this, like this would be a pretty cool thing. And
Well, I've definitely been over the last nearly 2 years now a real believer on if you need something and you ask for it, it's gonna fall in your lap when it comes, but only when it comes to this subject. It seems like we've been trying to move the football down the field just like you have, and we came up with what we thought was our idea. But as it's progressed, it's been shown to us that it really wasn't so much our idea, but it's something we've been guided towards and we've been guided through.
mhm.
And then in doing that, I've been fortunate enough to meet people like you. Uh, I mean, Rob, we're getting down to the nitty gritty, and Drew has so much that he can tell people. I mean, how can we get a
Yes.
hold of him? Where is he at? You've got so many things. I don't even know where to start, Drew, to be honest with you.
Yeah. I mean, I just want to say this. I mean, he's coming back for hour 3, but I definitely want him to
Mhm.
give his information because, um, like I've been saying the whole show, like I align with a lot of things Drew's saying because I believe that is the key. Literally, that's the key for us to get to where we need to go. And I always preach the same thing as far as we we do the best we can to uh provide a positive path for the progression of humanity. And consciousness is definitely the key to that. The spirituality, the ascending mentally is definitely the key to that. That does so many different things. Not only does it allow you to connect on this higher level, but it also allows you to break out of this machine, this matrix that we're all plugged into as society. It allows us to break out of that, and that's the thing that is really shackling us in at this point. And so Drew, you got to keep preaching this stuff. You got to keep waking people up, and I'm gonna do the same. You know what I mean? And I think a lot more people out there who really care about getting to where we need to go need to do the same thing. It's literally about what Drew is sitting here talking about with us tonight. So I just wanted to say that, Drew, and definitely
Appreciate it, man. I
no
appreciate it.
problem. Let people know where they can find you, and you have I have your thing we'll bring up too, and then
Yeah,
we'll
yeah.
jump into hour 3.
Yeah, basically, the best way is Sacred Journeys Within. Journeys is spelled with IES. SacredJourneysWithin.com. That's the hub where you can contact me for ceremonies, C5s, speaking events, etc. You can find links to my books on there. You can find links to sweat, t-shirts, even, and also some different medicines, not psychedelic medicines, but like pulverized tobacco, which is Hape. That's some of the stuff you can find on my shop. You can also find links to Eagle's Nest podcast, which is taking a rest right now. But there's a lot of really good interviews on there with Billy Carson, Kevin Day, and Laura Eisenhower, and the whatnot. And speaking of Laura Eisenhower, if you want to hang out with me and Laura, you can come to Florida next month. In less than a month, I think it's the 16th through 19th, Lake Walls, Florida. Me and Laura is going to be doing a panel there. We're also going to be doing our independent speeches. I'm also going to be doing a C5s there, and also going to be doing some ceremony with there with some non-psychoactive plants. So if you're free, if you got a couple $100 extra for a ticket, come hang out with us next month in Florida at Zen Awakening Festival. It's a music festival, but there's also a lot of presentations and stuff during the day. So me and Laura Eisenhower will be there. I've done some things with her in the past, and she's a good friend of mine, so it's going to be amazing.
That is awesome, man. I hope I can. I wish I can go. I don't think I can. I wish I could. That's right up my alley, and I would love to be there. Anybody who can be there, you need to go. And it's all about awakening spiritually, and I just love it, man. What do you think, Terry?
Well, Drew's not a stranger to traveling, that's for sure. So we're gonna have to get him up here in Oregon here soon, and go have some fun up here in the Pacific Northwest. Drew, our door's always open for you, man.
Yeah, I'm ready. We got pretty booked out till with traveling and family, with Christmas and everything and the holidays. Yeah, down for next year sometime for sure, and we'll figure out something.
Well, come on up. I'll feed you. Make sure you're happy, and we'll lay it underneath the stars and have a good chat.
Yeah.
Oh, and by the way, I have a very particular type of mushroom that grows out in my backfield that I think you would enjoy quite well.
Nice.
Sounds
nice.
good.
Sounds excellent. Say, and if you go to Terry's, I'm coming up because I'm in Southern California, so I'm coming up too, man.
Nice. Where you at?
In Bakersfield, California.
Gotcha.
Yep.
You ever heard of Palmer Mountain? It's
No, what area?
It's down by San Diego.
No. What's going on there?
Heard of Big Bear, but not Palmer Mountain.
So this festival, Zen Awakening, in Florida, it's been going on years in Florida, but They did one out in Zen West, and it was on Palomar Mountain down near San Diego on the top of the mountain. And dude, there's a sacred site up there that we found, and I didn't find it, but it's up there, you know, and I went to witness it. But it's an old Native American site where they carved holes into this big rock, and they had put water in it in these holes, and during the equinoxes, like you know, during December 21st and the winter and the spring equinox and all that, they would put water in this, and certain moon phases would come out these constellations, different constellations. I can't remember what constellation it was. I know it wasn't Orion, but because that'd be too freaky. But it was these different constellations, and it's just you know, it's just amazing thing. So you said Southern California is just a cool spot.
Yeah, I'll have to look into that for sure. So what we're gonna do right now is get ready to pause for the cause with our last break of the night. As we get ready to jump into our third and final hour here on Spaced Out Radio, and Drew will be back. We're gonna look at some crazy stuff. Or I don't know if I'm not going to say right now who sent it in, but one of the family members sent it in. We're going to be reviewing that, and maybe he'll even join us. We'll see. We'll be right back. Take care. Welcome back to Spaced Out Radio, after hour number 3, with me, your host, Mr. Rob G. and Mr. Terry Hall. And staying for hour 3 is Mr. Drew Banky. And we had some things that we wanted to go over in hour 3, just some real crazy stuff. And we may be joined by a fourth guest if he checks his messenger, Facebook
Dude,
Messenger,
I
and
texted him. I
grabs
just
the link.
texted him too, Rob.
I
did
did too
too.
as well. So in case that's a maybe, so we'll see, but we can still go over the information. So Terry, I know you know a great deal about this, so I guess you can lay it out, and then I'll bring it up. Let me know when you want me to bring it up.
Well, it seems that Derek in our chat has kind of sort of figured this out. Okay. The guy on our show, Drew, that does the UFO report, Tim Senor, was one of the people that I told you got brought into this kicking and screaming, right? He was raised in a family of black and white, and they got drugged the whole family into the gray pretty hard. But since then, Tim, like you, has been able to not only call things down or just happen to be at the right place at the right time to see these things, but he's been able to film lightning strikes. He's been able here recently, just very recently, shooting stars as well, Drew. But some of the things that come up in his pictures are pretty phenomenal. What would you have to say about that, Rob?
Yeah, pretty amazing. And as it was explained to me, is that these images were taken from one of the cameras that was using to monitor the skies, and caught this electricity activity on camera in still shots, but not visible to the naked eye, from what I understand. Is that right?
No, this is one of the deals where Tim was sitting and it's like, I need to go outside and take a picture. He goes outside and takes a picture and gets what you see. And it's anybody who can film lightning because they were told to go film lightning. That's another consciousness connection. Look at Drew just grinning ear to ear, man. Look at him.
And apparently, he went ahead and ran these, and we're going to show the images here in just a moment. He ran these images taken with the Psionics camera. He went and contacted Psionics to get
We
their
did.
input on it. And
That's exactly what we did. It was like, okay, who's going to be the expert that we can ask to tell us what this is? And we just sent it right back to the manufacturer of the camera, who can be more of an expert than the guys who built the silly thing. Tim, check your email, check your text messages, please. He's in the chat, Rob. He just dropped a message.
Tim is in the chat. Okay, so it would be because he's the guy who took it. So Tim, you have a link in your Facebook Messenger. If you would like to come in and further explain before we actually show the photos and discuss these pictures here.
We'll give him a minute.
So yeah, we'll give him a minute. So,
but see, Drew, he was the one who's having the episodic dreams as well. But it's not just him. What happened to them was they were on Bainbridge Island, up around the Seattle area. You know where Bainbridge Island is, and they had a sighting. And you can look it up. It's the Bainbridge Island Tic Tac, no problem. But it was a couple of discs, just for lack of a better word, flying saucers. A portal opened up, and apparently a Tic Tac came out of it. But the portal provided something else besides just a gateway through one place to another. When a few of the people that were with Tim on that beach that day, they all looked into the portal momentarily enough that it was open, and they got a download. And that's when these, once again, for lack of a better word, because I know you don't like to use the word, um, apocalyptic dreams were beginning to manifest. And that's actually how Tim and I met. He was having a very difficult time with it, and he calls me his cosmic counselor because I was the one person that he could talk to and that would listen.
I
And
gotcha.
And I'll give a shameless plug on that. You can actually watch Tim tell that story in full with detail going over to the social dig. Check out episode number 4. And
mhm.
Tim really goes, I've never seen him talk about this as deeply as he did in that episode. So if you haven't already seen it and you want to know more about the details on what happened around that sighting and some of the effects that it had on family and things of that nature, then I would recommend going to watch that at the social dig on my channel. And also, while I'm talking right now, I want to talk to all the space travelers out there, right? You guys are already space travelers. Consider taking the next step and join the club. That's right. You can join the S.O.R. Space Travelers Club for as little as $5 by joining our Patreon. Get some official Spaced Out swag only at spacedoutradio.com. And as Dave says, we don't have ugly swag,
No, he don't.
right?
He's got Dave's got dope swag. I gotta admit that, man. The guy's got
So
yeah.
why not get it? It's not ugly swag. So you could wear, he says you could wear it outside the house. So definitely go over there and get it and consider becoming a space traveler. And just as you pointed earlier in the show, a lot of new names that we saw coming in here today. Want to make sure that if you have not already subscribed, please consider doing that. We'd love to see you back. You see, we have a great community here. The chat is always great, very informative, and yeah, we do this 7 days a week right here at Spaced Out Radio. So please hit that subscribe button, notification bell. We'd love to see you back. All right, and maybe we are not getting a Tim Senor sighting tonight. So
Tim's
Timmy,
he's a little reserved when it comes to this, Rob. He really is.
and it's okay. It's okay.
I,
It's okay.
I think with this evening, he's more interested in what everyone else feels about this.
Mm.
People like Drew, Drew's talking about having that portal inside, right? I think Tim's more interested. I think Tim's more interested in we need more
How
insight on
everybody
this.
thinks, yeah, and I agree with that. I agree with taking any sighting you have, or if you have any sort of proof or evidence of anything, to go ahead and put it out there for it to be examined and scrutinized, because actually, you may be able to prove that it's nothing rather than this, or that it's actually something pretty wild and we should be cataloging it. Now, I want to point out, Magneticus says, see, I haven't been able to check, but we're 39 likes short of 100. Come on, man. Can we get those likes up? Can we get the likes up? Can we get the likes up? Awesome conversation tonight. Awesome guest. And we're about to show you something that might be, I don't know. I'm going to go ahead and bring it up
Okay, I got
and
it from
we
the
can
man,
see
Rob.
what we think.
I got it from the man. Unfortunately, Tim can't join us this evening, but he said, please go ahead and show the pics and zoom in on all the cool stuff.
All right. I will do my very best to do that, Tim Senor. So let me see what we got. Boom. All right, let me move some stuff out the way here. Get a clear picture. You move the banner.
Yeah, imagine just walking outside and going, click. And there it was.
Okay, and we're going to monitor the chat. I mean, obviously, it's a lightning bolt, and Tim agrees with that. That is definitely a lightning bolt. However, he did state that there wasn't any sort of cloud in the sky.
Dude,
So
that was a clear night, not a cloud. Even on radar, there wasn't even any clouds on radar. And then Tim's like, I gotta go outside, take this picture.
So pretty wild. I mean, what do you think? What do you guys think? I mean, it could just simply be, it could be something simple as some sort of static electricity, some atmospheric anomaly, but it's pretty wild. And I've seen, and this might explain actually, because I've seen in with clear, it was at nighttime, clear skies, and a flash of light that could technically be what was caught here. And maybe it's just something that we don't understand, as far as what the atmosphere is capable of doing. Maybe clouds don't need to be present in order to charge the atmosphere. I don't
Well,
know.
I think if Drew would take a good a second look at this, it goes back to his name specifically, Blue Thunderbound. The sky is blue. There's not a cloud in the sky. Does this ring a bell with you, Drew?
Yeah, I don't know. We don't have time to really to go down this rabbit hole very much. They're very far, but my name is associated with an Anishinaabe prophecy, actually. So there's a prophetic uh, talking about this time. There's, like I talked about before. There's about 26 different indigenous prophecies that and countless spiritual texts that are talking about this time. So it doesn't surprise me that things are connecting all the time. I've went through experiences like when I had the spontaneous channeling of Osiris and stuff like that, and then things pop up afterwards. Man, that's beautiful. There. Where's this taken at? Like what?
Salem, Oregon,
Oregon.
or just around the Salem, Oregon area. Yeah.
It reminds me of the UP, like up in there. Like there's some massive storms that happen up in the UP.
Funny enough, I'm from Michigan originally.
Shit. I'm I where I Sundance at was up in Cedarville.
Really?
Yep.
You and I need to talk later. Oh, now this one's so cool. This one's so cool. Same kind of deal. I'm sorry, I don't mean to get overexcited here. Same kind of deal, Drew. But look in the very top, the way that it loops back around.
Yeah. I've never seen
like
lightning do that.
Looks like a sperm.
Yeah. And I'll tell you the truth. Oh, do I have it?
Now I don't know if either one of you noticed about the prior picture and this picture. Right prior to where the loop is, you'll see a bright spot in the lightning. Right below where the loop's at, that bright spot in the lightning. In the previous picture, that same bright spot is there.
I got a quick question. Is this camera on a tripod? Like, because it looks like the same area, but it seems like a slightly different spot.
I think that if I'm not mistaken, and Tim can correct me if I'm wrong, that these were shot freehand, but
Gotcha.
they were shot in his backyard.
Because it looks so where these trees are right below this little spermy thing, like these trees, like, see, 1, 2, 6 trees and one sticking up. If go back to the other lightning one, the first lightning one. Okay, so these are the same trees right here. Look.
Right.
So there's the same trees under the same spot.
Yeah, that's Tibbits' backyard. Yep.
You know what I'm saying? This is the exact same spot.
Both of the same cluster. And Oddly enough, he was walking out of his house one evening and filmed an orb right above the same cluster of trees.
Yeah, the trees are great for reference because you can really pinpoint the spot.
And I'm gonna just blow your mind a little bit. So, assuming that is lightning, and we do have Mr. Tim Senor joining us, and Tim, you're
Tidbits.
right on time, man. Because here I wanted to show
Yeah.
you this. So now that you just look at this, this is something that I noticed in my sighting, and I know you're familiar with that sighting, Tim. Look at this, and it just reminds me of the same thing. So these are my UFOs. Let me
You know, look at
show
the
you.
loop.
Let me
It's
show you
there.
this. Let me bring. I'm gonna bring this on full screen. There is a frame, and I need to get to it here. Keep an eye on the upper right. See that in the upper right corner?
Yep.
So this thing went across the sky, and I couldn't see it. It was just like in Tim's case. It was a split-second situation because this video, the frame that you're seeing was probably 1 second, maybe 2 seconds. And when I did this or laid it out frame by frame, that was when I noticed the thing in the upper right corner. And it traverses, see how it moves across the sky? And that, in my sighting, that part of the sky, right about that spot, is where all 47 of these objects disappeared. So this kind of backs up with 10. And I just thought of this right now, and I happen to have this on hand. So I didn't even pre-plan this, but as you see, this thing moves across the sky, whatever it is. And I've seen these in other sightings too, just like a squiggly line. So when we go back to Tim's, I think it might be the same thing. And mine's is obviously broad daylight, so not lightning, clear blue sky. And you look at that and then look back at Tim's. It's the same type of thing.
Now, what I would like to know
Yeah.
between Drew and Tim is this: what you're both able to do this phenomenal thing, capturing shooting stars or capturing lightning. What compels you at the moment to actually grab your camera and capture this? Is it a voice that you're hearing that you're trying to follow? Is it an urge? Is it
Just
something pushing you? What is it that people like you and Tim are connected to that's allowing you to do this?
sometimes it's for me, sometimes it's a vibration. I can hear a ringing in my ears, and it will centralize on one ear, and
Mhm.
then I can kind of triangulate. I say, okay, I know something. I walk outside and I can say, I know something's out here because my ears are ringing, and I start to turn, and one ear will stop ringing, and then I know, I start to triangulate that area. And sometimes it's like that, and sometimes it's just like, um, about a month. This latest footage that I posted, and if I don't know if you want to pull that up, because that's like an hour long incident. I got 9 minutes of footage, but there is footage in there that multiple crafts, you can see them circling around each other. But I had a podcast on another channel, and it went really late. Got over at like 2:22. Well, I got over at 2 o'clock, and I'm sitting here talking after the show, and I look up at my clock and it says 2:22. I was like, oh, I gotta go. I gotta walk inside, and I was like, I gotta look up at the stars when I walk out there because there's probably gonna be something. And when I walked out and walking to the house from my office to the house, I looked up to Mount Blanca, and I started to witness an event that lasted over an hour. And at times there was over 6 crafts that were moving around each other in the sky. And to the point where I went inside and laid down. I couldn't even be outside anymore. I went inside, laid down. I was laying down like 10 minutes and went back outside and continued filming and stuff. And
Drew,
sometimes it's just,
do you suffer from vertigo?
Not really, man. Like all that stuff. I don't suffer from anything. You know, I'm living a freaking dream, dude. You know, I'm not suffering from anything.
There's so many.
I'm living my light, dude.
There's so many.
Yeah.
There's
Can you
so
guys
many.
hear me? Okay. Just
Yeah,
we
got
can
you.
hear
Yeah.
you.
There's so many strings
Oh,
that
okay,
are
cool.
putting you and Tim together. Go ahead, take over, Tim, for a minute. And welcome, by the way.
Oh
Glad
no,
to see
I just
you.
wanted to thanks, bro. It's cool and it's really nice to meet you too. You know, Drew, it's my first time, you know, meeting you, and it's really been cool listening in. Thanks so much for sharing with everyone. I guess it's not your first time with S.O.R, is that right?
Oh
No,
no.
I've been
You've been
no,
with
I was
S.O.R before?
yeah, many times. A
Cool.
Many
times with
Cool.
Many times.
few times with Dave,
Awesome.
and then
Awesome.
and then the after hours got a hold of me, and then they don't let go of me for a while. So
Beautiful. Well, I really wanted to jump in, mostly just to give Rob some guidance on these images, because in the wide shot, it just looks like, you know, a bolt of electricity. But if you want to go
Want me
back
to
to the
start
very
back?
first image, Rob,
Yeah.
yeah, to the first one, I'm just going to lead you guys in on what made it spectacular to me. So if you can zoom right into almost the center, there's going to be a circle, a perfect
Well,
circle.
let's do it. This is close as we can get.
Oh, that's really
Oh,
a bummer.
I see where you mean
So-
on the far left side of it.
Nope. But yeah, I guess on the far left side of the bolt, but kind of dead center in
Yeah.
the image. So are you able to use any tools
Yeah.
to zoom or anything?
Unfortunately,
Let's go ahead and try and
no.
zoom in on that. Oh, you can't.
No, no.
Okay, bud. Bummer. I thought we had some kind of weaponry where we could zoom in.
But
Okay, so the center of this bolt is interesting because there's a perfect circle, an absolute perfect circle. And then there's a swirl and another smaller circle and a swirl that comes below it with another smaller circle. Something that I had never seen in imagery before, just something very geometrical, perfect shapes. And then in another shot, I have a perfect triangle at the end of a bolt that has a little circle at each of the three connecting points of that triangle. So, you know, this is just something that I don't get any inkling. I was out there because I was in my backyard anyways, and there was just a lot of weirdness in the air, kind of like if I had hair, it would have been standing up, you know, that kind of feeling around. So there was something going on. The thing was, though, I wasn't seeing any bolts of lightning. There was like flashes, but I wasn't seeing any actual arcs. So when I had the psionics imagery come back, you know, psionics even said sometimes lightning can even be in multiple spectrums of light at the same time. So our eye may not capture what the lens can. So a lot of what we're seeing here was only visible in the spectrum that psionics was able to capture. So I wasn't seeing these shapes with our naked eye. So that's what made it also even more interesting to me. So in one of these next shots, if you're able to scroll forward,
I think
there's one where it's the same camera angle and you can see a big arc, a large arc, and at the center of it, a very anamorphic white shape. You may have already shown that one.
Yeah, I think I can actually, I'm using this online tool thing, and I think you can see that better, right? Can you see that better? No, it's not. Hold on.
You guys are getting the behind the scenes, and I'm sorry to kind of, you know, interrupt your show and take over. I just would love you guys to see some of what I'm getting at these hot spots. And so
I'm glad you jumped in to explain this, Tim. Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, so I'm very nuts and bolts. I don't think that I have any special connection to it or anything. I think I'm very much just in the right place at the right time with the right gear. I'm not, you know, your audience probably knows me. I'm not somebody that dives too deeply into the woo. I believe there's something connected, you know, that brings it all to, you know, consciousness and the physical nuts and bolts, but this sort of thing then kind of bends it, and I start having to think out of the box. And even with my family's experience with a portal initially in 2019, you have to start thinking, these things are right in front of our faces. They just happen for such a brief moment in time. And if we're able to capture any portion of it in any way, shape, or form, I think it's pure magic. So I wanted to share
this the
some
one
of
you
what
wanted to
I'm
see?
getting at some hotspots. This one's going to be, no, I mean, the one to zoom in on really is that first one. If you
Okay.
have the zoom capability.
Yeah.
Because that one really,
let me see if let me try something here while you're talking here. See if I can.
right. Well, I mean, and so go ahead, jump in there, Tara, because I know you have some thoughts. I ran this by you at the time.
I think something else that made all
Heat
of
lightning.
us
Yeah.
think out of the box as far as this goes was we've had too many experiences where they're just with I'm so limited on my vocabulary this evening, for lack of a better word, that were just unexplainable. Being called at 11:11 from 1,100 miles away to tell us to go look outside. There's a UFO there. There it was. You getting things like this, and I can attest to the fact of what Tim is describing these pictures, as I was able to sit down with him and he was able to show them to me, and point out the kind of things that he's seen. But we've found out, and I think the one thing that made us both think out of the box more than anything was the more true experiencers that we have with us on any given trip that we've taken, the more success we've had. Don't you feel that way, Tim?
Oh, yeah. Well, I think, I kind of said this on Dave's show this week. It's kind of like you pull a thread and things start to kind of unravel a little bit at a time. And you pull it as fast as you can and it unravels, but there's, you have to be able to understand it as you're unraveling it, which is the trick.
Let me try this, Tim.
And your audience is throwing some great stuff out there. Derek, I love that you're thinking heat lightning in Oregon. That's not a thing. I mean, it wasn't warm enough for it to be heat lightning, but it's definitely natural.
There we go.
I'm not saying this is something that is anything more than natural. It's just when you see it in the same location over and over at the same place you're capturing UAP, it's significant phenomenon. Excellent. Oh man, that resolution is not great. Super though. We're kind of getting an idea. Yeah, zoom in more potentially. Yeah. You got it. That is totally it. All right. So that is a perfect circle. Yeah, right in front of us. It doesn't look great to you guys. I can see, it's not, the resolution isn't coming through as great as it does in my images, but that is a perfect circle with two little white circles above it, kind of in perfect opposite from each other. It's just first time I'd ever seen that. And I looked it up. It's not something that is typical. These sorts of shapes are not typical. And also arcing that doesn't hit the ground. These are from cloud to cloud, seems to just kind of end in the same location, by the way. I'm not associating anything else except that I'm just giving you my notes on the location. I'm not assessing anything phenomenal with this other than it was beautiful. I wanted to share it. What are your thoughts?
Well,
and
everybody
we can go
who
on to the
knows
next
us knows
image and zoom in for sure.
Everybody who knows us knows that's how we do things, Tim. It's here's the facts. You guys make up your own mind about it and let us know, and that's how we make progress.
And let me ask you this, Tim: is it
sure.
the other picture, the other lightning image, or the dark sky or the night sky?
It really doesn't matter. I can talk about any of them now that you can zoom in. You can go to the next one.
Let's see.
Next one may be a triangle.
The psionics camera has been a good boon to this to ufology as well. It's a phenomenal little piece of tech. For as small as it is, it packs a lot of power.
right, let me try.
Yeah.
this.
You know, we could just skip forward to the other really good one, and then I can zip out of here because I don't want to take away too much from Drew. You've got him here with us. I don't want to
Yeah,
detract too much
we're
from
actually just hanging out. Drew agreed to stay for the third hour, so we were done with the interview
that. That's
piece.
beautiful.
We're just some guys hanging out right now, man. So
Just chilling,
Okay.
looking at
All right.
UFOs and lightning, dude.
exactly.
I literally got up out of bed with my kids
This
from reading. They do not want to go to sleep tonight. So,
is this what we're looking at?
okay. So actually zoom back out for a second. But yes, that's the anamorphic blob. Now, if we zoom out, you're going to see a massive ring. So there's a halo around that. That was only there for just
Oh, you've zoomed in too
one
far.
frame.
You've zoomed in too far, Rob.
Well, that's
Zoom
the
back out.
blob. That's the blob.
Yep.
And then if you zoom
That's the
out, you can see
blob.
what I'm calling like this
Oh, this.
ring
Yeah,
of
the
light.
halo.
Yeah, a big
Yeah.
halo. Now that existed in one frame and one frame only at the same time as these other electrical discharges.
Okay.
And there was no
okay, I see
sound.
that.
I couldn't see this with my naked eye.
That's
And so,
pretty
I mean,
wild.
I don't like saying, you know, what I think it is. I would love your audience's input or Drew's input, you know, because normally I don't photograph this stuff at this location. It doesn't do this very often.
Yeah, that's very clearly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it reminds me of like a sundog, you know, like there's been times when I've been in ceremonies and stuff, and like especially when I was getting initiated into Wachuma, like I was out with my teacher Renato in a group, and in the middle of the day, like looked up at the sun, and there was like a double sundog around the sun. But you can see the ring. You can see the ring too. It actually goes below the tree line. The actual halos goes below the tree line.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I can see the
Interesting.
line
So you're saying part of it's in the foreground?
Well, it's just
Very
so
interesting.
big, you know, and it's
Mhm.
it could
And it's a
be
sphere of light.
where's
Potentially.
the moon in all the where's the moon in all this
Right.
story?
That's what I was gonna ask.
So the moon wasn't out yet. I mean, it was kind of like I wish here, let me see if I can get the metadata really quick here. I'd
Are you
love to know
facing east or
exactly.
west? This is
Also a good question. Hang on, stand by.
See, we've learned our lesson
Okay.
though, because now when we capture stuff like this, we've got a whole station set up that documents the time and the humidity and the temperature and all kinds of good stuff.
So this is looking west, September 17th, 2020 at 7:44 p.m. So, wow, September 17th though. So, you know, still kind of light out at that time, right? What would you say?
Yeah,
You live in Oregon, Terry.
Kind of, sort of in September. That's right on the verge of, you know, in September, that time of the evening, it's definitely twilight. It's half and half,
It had
sort of.
Yeah, it's twilight. I probably had the psionics set in twilight mode. Come to think of it.
You know what it does look like, but it's obviously not that, is when you have the moon in the sky, like it would be at the center of this halo, and then from the moisture in the air creates the ring around it. But obviously the moon isn't there. However, whatever this is in the middle is there. That spot that we zoomed in on.
You know what? You could be looking at one of the
next one.
You could be looking at one of the last rays
no
of the sun shining up and hitting moisture, and it creating like, you know, a sundog type of thing. But still,
this was during that electrical.
But still, it's
between electrical strengths.
But still, it's beautiful. I mean, it's because everything, there is no accidents. There is no just some of it's just lightning and some of it's connected to a UAP. Like it's all just It's
We
all
download the other
it's all just as sacred, you know.
You know what? The chat did it again.
So
I got to hand this one to
yeah,
D-Cypher. He says, there are black holes. Who's to say there's not a white holes that blows temporarily, part of duality?
Yeah, why not?
right.
Got to leave it to
And
the
just to be
chat,
clear,
man.
that I had that camera. These are all a succession of photos, all right there. So we know that the
Okay.
moon wasn't in any of the other shots. I hadn't
Yeah.
moved it, and so it definitely it wasn't something that was in any of the other frames. And whatever it was gave off its own light for like a frame and then was gone. That's why I thought that was cool. But
All right.
yeah,
Let me
I
show
just
the
wanted
other
to
one
share
here.
that. I thought that'd be fun. Feel free to share any of that stuff if you guys want to breeze through them.
Okay, what are we looking at here? Do you see
But
this?
okay, so this was also that same night, and we have just a very odd light formation that came out in one or two frames and then was gone.
Is this later in the
It's
night?
just it is. Let's see what time. That one
Can we
was
can we just
at
call this group of trees here the castle?
8:29.
Yeah.
Can we just call it the castle?
That was
Because everything happens above the castle.
Above the
Right.
castle.
And
Yep.
that's the thing. So that is there anything on the other side of that mountain? Like, is there any light
a
source over
massive
there? Or
field. A massive field where actually during an ice storm there was a massive blue ball of light that I tried to photograph but left before I could photograph it when there was no power. All the power had gone down during the ice storm, and in that field there was a blue ball of light. I know it sounds nuts,
That
but
was during the ice storm, Tim?
yeah, you remember me telling you about it, don't you?
I do.
I probably did tell you about it. It's in that field on the other side of this.
To bring everybody up to speed on that, right after the massive wildfires that we experienced, that same year during the winter, we had an ice storm to end all ice storms. It was phenomenal, but it knocked everyone's power out all over the place for weeks. Actually,
It was
for weeks.
freezing. We were freezing
And
cold.
this was during that time when the light pollution was down to absolutely nothing because nobody had power.
Now, I think the thing that is that's common exactly is that for whatever reason, this area appears to be lit, obviously lighter than the other parts of the sky. I would wonder what was over there or what's in the sky illuminating this like that. I mean, it could just be an anomaly, something that can't be explained, lighting up the sky like that port, because in every photo, that's like the center of that halo is right in the same general area. The bolt that you see is right in the same general area. So it's hard to say. It's hard to say what that is.
Yeah, and there's some weird stuff. Did you get the one that has the triangle in the bolt? Because that one is another really beautiful image, and I guess I could leave you with that.
The twisted bolt. Let me bring that one back up here.
Man, I gotta say, chat is our chat is the best, man. You guys have some great ideas, and this is exactly why Tim sent these pictures in.
Exactly.
Yeah, and that light down in the bottom right is potentially it's not abnormal. That is normally there because there are houses down there somewhere.
Yeah, and
so
I mean,
people that are wondering about that little light in the bottom right, that's nothing phenomenal.
That orb you captured that one night, Tim, wasn't that above the castle as well? I'm just going to start calling those trees the
Dude,
castle
it
now.
totally
Thanks,
100% was. And you know what? If you guys want to see an incredible orb capture in the same spot, you can go to my Anonymous Rex YouTube channel, and I have it posted there.
Right. Is this the one you were talking about, the triangle?
No,
that's the
I I had 5
That has a
photos. Let me see.
Uh-oh.
Maybe,
Oh,
I don't
did
know
you?
if
Oh,
you
so you
sent me
didn't
that
get the
one.
second email? I sent you 2 emails. There should be one in
Yeah.
number 1 and
Let
number
me
2.
see. Okay. This is Tim.
By the way, it's
Okay.
amazing that I even found the link on Facebook. I don't Facebook. So he's like, I sent it on
Tim does,
Facebook. I'm like,
he
what?
he really
I
does
don't
it,
even know how to
guys.
sign in.
Tim
I
doesn't
had to get help.
doesn't Facebook. I had to get him to get messengers just so we could keep in touch. So I could have him keep in touch with everybody.
Oh yeah. I'm so.
When it
I'm a
look, put a
Lud. I'm a
camera in.
total Luddite. Oh yeah.
Yeah, wait a minute now. Time out. Put a camera in Tim's hands, and it's a whole different ball of wax. But put a smartphone in Tim's hands, and he needs a little help.
Yeah, I'm not a social
Tim,
media
let me
dude.
see.
We got to bring Drew back on too and talk about this Bigfoot deal that he was talking about. Because, I mean, where is the connection between ET and Bigfoot? Is there a connection between ET and Bigfoot, Drew?
Definitely.
Oh, you're muted, Drew.
I experienced Bigfoot in the Uwhippie ceremony, so a Native American ceremony. You know, definitely a dimensional being, and had the same experience I did when I had the face-to-face contact with ET, where I had the experience of seeing the ET and the Bigfoot, but having the dream, you know, a week or 2 weeks later from each instances where I went through the same experience, but from the other perspective, and really understood multidimensionality by location through experience. You know, and that's the best way to learn, through experience. So I was able to do that through the dream space, and some serious epiphanies, you know, come in that time.
So Bigfoot's not the best to hide and go seek. He's a dimension slipper, huh? Or
Yeah,
they are dimension slippers, I should say. They are.
Yeah,
Excuse me.
it's actually, you know, a future. If you want to put a linear timeline on this whole thing, back on it to, if for the sake of this conversation, they would be like a more advanced version of ourself, or in it living, operating in a higher vibrational dimensional field. But I believe if we experience any of this stuff, like craft, ET, little people, like we're experiencing other particles of ourself in this space, to really open our minds more and more. If we have time, I'd love to, if you could pull up the last video, that the over Blanca, UFOs over Blanca, and if we could like go halfway through that and to the circular parts, it'd be wonderful. But if not, it's okay.
Oh,
Tim,
we're not letting you off that easy, Drew. This is not the. You're gonna have to absolutely come back. Either that, or you're gonna have to come to Oregon and let me and Tim pick your brain. One or the other.
Yeah, maybe you got to come out here. Maybe you got to come out here and see what the Sacred Valley of Colorado is like.
Tim,
that part.
Tim,
What?
actually,
Whereabouts in Colorado?
Drew, funny enough that
Yeah,
you said Colorado.
I'm in the San Luis. I'm in the San Luis Valley. So I'm at the southern end of the Santa de Cristo mountain range, the Blood of Christ mountain range.
I think that Tim and I could definitely make a side trip when we get to Colorado to come see Drew. Another synergy, Drew. Another synergy. Tim and I absolutely have to make a trip to Colorado. And here you are. Here we go again, Tim.
We'll come.
Here we go again.
We can go meet Bigfoot with Drew. That would be amazing.
Tim,
I'm pretty
Doug
mellow,
Shelby
though. I
makes
don't
a
know
point
if
here.
Bigfoot's gonna like me.
Doug Shelby makes a point, Tim, about that not being lightning, that it doesn't appear to be electrical. I felt the same way about that, especially zoomed in. He says it's a tear or rip in the fabric.
Yeah.
And that's what because if it was lightning, it would have charged the air, and you should have gotten thunder behind that. It should have, with it being that close, you should have had something.
With
and
the
you
vicinity
didn't get that.
with the vicinity that Tim was in to that, I absolutely 100% agree with you, Rob. There should have been some sort of physical effect that happened afterwards, but there wasn't.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
that
and I
leans
wish
more
that
towards the fabric.
yeah, and I wish that we could bring up some more of them, because it really was a sequence of about an hour and a half that I was out there.
Amazing.
You know, and it was just an amazing period. Yeah, a period of time. And I was out there anyways. And each time I'd get this photo, I'd look at it, I'd be like, that's so cool. And I would do it again. And I'd be like, oh, look at this. I'm like, did you guys even see a flash? They're like, my kids are like, no. You know, it was just one of those things. I don't have an explanation for it. And some of those shapes are perfect. And I've never seen that. And then, you know, that big, you know, arc of light that just happened. Just a lot of sequence of events, you know, that I've seen and photographed lots of electricity before. You know, lightning is
Well,
not
it's
that
not
big a
only
deal, but it
that.
was literally just in that one area right over the hill there.
It's not only
It was
that,
weird.
Tim, but you have a knack of catching geometric shapes in the sky, whether it be triangles or circles. There was that FLIR image that you captured when we were in the Uinta Basin of squares,
Great
literal
point.
squares in the sky.
That's a great point. Yeah, we have managed to get pretty lucky with our imagery. And that big cross, or the X, you know, we don't like calling it a
The
cross because
X.
that's too
Yeah, the
symbolic, but there was an
X.
X.
Mhm.
Yeah, there was a massive X over us. Filmed that with the FLIR. Yeah, there's definitely something to, I don't like saying portal, but I mean, it feels like it. Like 3 or 4 times we've come across things that appear to be what, quote unquote, would look like a portal. If there is one, you imagine it to be like something that opens up and closes. Man, we keep filming that kind of stuff. It's just too weird for it not to be in existence. I don't know. Drew, what are your thoughts
Yeah.
when you're seeing and filming stuff like that? Do you think portals exist, bud?
Yeah, man. It's
Yeah.
all about perception, you know. But I think we all have our own portal. Like, I think there's actual portals that people has opened up, and beings have opened up, you know, on this earth plane in the physical. But I ultimately think, you know, the way our portal to get to the inner world is inside ourselves. Like, you know, we need to fold within and find that portal, and that's how we travel. You know, that's how, moving forward, that's how we're going to begin to space travel through transportation like that. So, you know, the portal is when we slow down our mind, or vibrationally connect to these different fields. And, you know, we talk about how dogs can, just one instance that I like to bring up, how dogs can hear vibrations that we can't. Does that mean those vibrations are not there? How, the answer's no. I mean, the vibrations are there, you know, even though we can't hear them. So how far does that scale, how far does that scale go out? The answer is infinite, and it's on all our senses. That same thing can be said about all of our senses. You know, if you really want to, like, go down the rabbit hole, like, look up Dr. Emoto, the secret of water or something like that. But Dr. Emoto, look him up, Google him, Dr. Emoto. It's he did experiments with water, found how both positive and negative vibration affected water. Well, what is our physical self made out of? That means water can affect
80%
our,
water.
80% water.
Yep.
yeah.
Isn't it even more now?
You also, you could pick up a voltmeter, put one in in the earth, put other in your hand, and wear tennis shoes. See what happens. Now take those tennis shoes off and actually ground onto the earth. See what happens. We our physical selves we're really designed to spend about 85% of our time outside, barefoot on the earth. This is, you know, this is how we heal ourselves. We're led to believe that we need tennis shoes and all these other things. It's even so bad, like, there was almost like rioting over fucking toilet paper a few years ago.
Yep.
Like, that's how bad we got. Like, wake up. Like, just take off your shoes, go out into the earth, look at the sun in the morning and the afternoon. And if you want to see a ship, look up at the sky. Eventually you're going to see one. It's happening up there all over.
Well,
But there's definitely spaces above the castle that's, it seems to be happening over and over again. There's a reason why it's there. And ultimately the question is, what's it mean to you, Tim? Because that's the reason it's happening, because it's happening for you.
Well, this is going to strike on a more personal
That's
note.
what I feel.
And we're all wondering what comes next in the progression of things. And Tim, this deals directly with you. I was the first step in your journey, and we've been very productive. However, I think that what's happened tonight has shown me something. I do believe that Drew is the next step in your journey. I think that you and Drew need to have that connection and really have a serious talk with one another, because there's so many strings that are pulling you guys together. It's another one of those, as Rob said earlier, synergy things. It's things that you and I have become very accustomed to, that we don't blink twice when it presents itself. I think that this is another presentation, Tim, that you should be paying very close attention to.
I always answer when that door knocks too, bud. I love adventure, and I'm totally open to this, so I look forward to that. And
so, Drew,
it's great.
I can almost guarantee you that when we take that flight to Colorado, you're going to have a couple of knuckleheads come knocking on your door, buddy.
That's right. I got a spot for you.
That's what's up.
That's great.
That's what's up.
That's great.
Well, I got 2 minutes left here. So I definitely want to thank Drew Banky for coming through and just, talking the real talk. And that's really what we need. I totally agree with the approach that Drew is taking. A lot of the same beliefs as far as how we need to enlighten humanity. And as long as one person wakes up, then you feel fulfilled. And I'm with you on that. We need more people out there like that. I appreciate, and this is the first time me meeting you, man, and it was great. And we'll do this again for sure.
Yeah, this is one of those gigs, dude, to where when you meet somebody, you feel like you've known them for a long time.
Oh yeah.
You just feel like family,
Look, it'll be even more real talk next time. And and Tim Senor, thanks for stopping through. We didn't know if you were coming, dude. Tim stopped through. Let's give him a round of applause. Hey, Tim, thank you.
Yeah, I tell you what, man.
That.
In any circle in any realm of ufology, we've got a panel to end all panels right here, right now.
Exactly, and someone said that too, and I agree. Pretty strong right here, I'm glad on how everything turned out. It was a great show. If you're coming late, you got to rewind. You got to go back and watch it from the beginning. The archives are free always. YouTube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Want to thank the super chatters. Magneticus, he dropped one for us today, and I appreciate you, Magneticus. You always support, man. I appreciate you. I appreciate the people who came through today and for your love and support. It was great. And as we actually prepared to bring the show to a close, I want to thank all the space travelers out there for coming through. And since you're already a space traveler, consider taking the next step. Join the club. You can join the S.O.R. Space Travelers Club for as little as $5 per month. Join the Patreon. We appreciate your support. To all our viewers and listeners across the globe, thanks for tuning your frequency to Spaced Out Radio, where we do what we do best. And what's that, you ask?
We own
the night. Later, y'all.